All right, good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get this meeting started. We'll start with roll call. Uh-oh. I have a twin. I have a heavenly twin.
Mayor LaBarre,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Case,
Here.
Councilmember Connors,
Here.
Councilmember Nakai,
Here.
Councilmember Neal,
Here.
Councilmember Zulawaga.
Yes.
Thank you.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I see we've got a bit of a full house here this evening, and I just want people to know who may not be familiar with our public comment forum is under ceremonies, presentations, and appointments. There's no public comment. If you were here this evening for something that is a presentation or ceremony, then you can sign up to speak on item number 6. And it's kind of confusing because it's public comments on items not on the agenda, but that is where you would sign up for those topics, just so you guys know. So, and let's go ahead and get the meeting started. And we're going to start with item 3A, appointments to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and Suzanne will present for us.
Thanks, Mayor LaBarre. This evening before council, we have appointments to the Parks Recreation Advisory Board. As council knows, there were 3 openings that of 3 people on the board, their terms have expired. And so as council knows, the city clerk's office advertises for the positions. And in addition to advertising for the positions, we send letters to the incumbents. My office received 3 letters from all 3 incumbents interested in reapplying. All 3 of them are with us in the audience tonight. We did not receive any other applications, and I have all 3 of them here this evening. They'd like to come to the podium, answer questions for you, and I think that we should do them as individual motions. Yes.
Very good. All right. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Webb, if he wouldn't mind coming up.
Oh,
Is
he's
he-
not here. Never
Oh,
mind.
he's not
Cindy,
here. Just kidding.
okay, so we'll wait. We know the council's rule is you need to be present
Yeah.
to be appointed, but I know Mr. DeZellum's here and
Yes.
Danuta's here.
Great. Don, if you want to come on up. Don, I should be more formal and say Mr. DeZellum, but I feel like I know you well enough.
It's fine. Thank you. Don DeZellum. I lived here in Woodland Park since about 91 for the most part. There was a couple of years where I lived in Green Mountain Falls and Thornton and Springs, but most of my time here in Colorado has been in Woodland Park. And even during the times I was not here, I was involved in my community. Any questions?
Council, questions or comments?
Yeah, tell us about your term on the board and why you want to go back.
This will be looking for my 3rd reappointment to the, or 2nd reappointment to the board, or my 3rd term. I really believe that the recreation department up here is an asset to the city. I was a recreation major in college. The role of recreation in the community is important, as it helps to ensure that the city has a certain character to it, something that will help draw people to our community, the quality of the parks, quality of the programming, that type of thing. We have a lot of good recreational facilities up here. We have Meadowwood Park, the playground for Teller County. They're coming here to play ball, soccer, whatever. We have aquatic center that most small communities do not have, that is starting to show what it's capable of, not only in programming, but in usage. We have access to the National Forest for recreational activities, hiking, that type of stuff. And right now we're in the middle of redoing our master plan. And I really feel that I'd like to be a part of continuing that and getting that finished up for the community. So. Is that good, Mr. Zuma?
Yeah, very good. If I could just get a clarification, a question from Suzanne. Suzanne, we've got three board members before, well, two of the three before us. How many vacancies are there? What's the maximum on the board, and what's the term of each position?
Okay, so there's 3 positions that are vacant. I had 3 applications received by the 3 incumbents. The positions, I'm going to ask Cindy for help with this. Cindy, do you mind assisting the terms and how many are supposed to be on your board?
We have a 7-member board with the council liaison, and they're 2-year terms.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
And thank you, Don. That's our Mr. DeZello.
Suzanne, would you like us to make a motion and then to appoint each individual then? We'll do that.
And
now.
we can do the swearing
Okay.
and then after.
Yeah, okay. So could I please get a motion?
I'll move to approve Dawn's reappointment to the Park and Rec Advisory Board.
I'll second.
Okay, council, you may vote. I'm not seeing anyone's vote.
I clicked it.
I clicked it. I even saved it.
Oh, what?
Is that we're supposed to?
You
do?
did it right?
I did it right. Uh-huh.
Would you? We'll try it once more.
Probably just.
Okay, let's try it again, council. Now I see them.
Just had to get warmed up.
Thank you, council. Motion is passed unanimously.
Okay, very good. All right, up next, let's have Miss Brown.
Good evening. My name is Danuta Brown. I've lived in Woodland Park since 2014. I currently reside in Kings Crown Road. I'm applying for my 2nd term on the Parks and Recreation Board. My first 2 years on the board were quite productive, I think. We've done the master plan and we've done obviously the comprehensive plan. That's what actually got me involved in being interested in participating in the Parks and Recreation Board. We've had a lot of sessions with our community through the redoing of the master plan. So there were a lot of interactive sessions, and we've been able to figure out, what are the priorities currently in the community. And I would say that over the last 6 to 8 years, they have changed. I think we have much stronger minorities that express their views quite vocally. And as part of the Parks and Recreation Board, I think it's our duty to make sure that we represent those voices and we try to influence the policies of the Parks Board, Parks actual department to reflect the priorities of the community. Do you have any questions for me?
Council? Robert
Yeah,
always has one.
I've got one for you. I've got one for you, Danuta. I know you have a passion for Parks and Rec, and I know you have a passion for liaison with the federal forestry. How's your progress going, getting them to allow us to have trails through their space?
The connected trails and access to national forest showed up with the 2nd most important aspect in mind of citizens of Woodland Park. So people who participate they consider that to be a very important part of living here in this facility, in this town. Cindy and Jeff had actually a meeting with National Forest Service, and because I believe there's a new person who is in charge of National Forest Service here for Pikes Peak Forest, there is some desire to actually participate with volunteers in the city to address some issues. Doesn't mean we got trails yet or any kind of enthusiasm, but at least there's a willingness to talk and at least consider that there might be some kind of partnership. I am really very optimistic right now. You know, we've got Chris on our board right now, Chris Gonzalez, and he's very much involved also in hiking and biking, and has been working with other organizations that promote trails or development of trails. And hopefully we can actually get something done and maybe form a volunteer organization that would help maintain the trails here in the area.
Well, thank you. If this council approves you, you get 2 more years of crack at it.
All right, council, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve Ms. Brown to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
I'll second it. Oh, go ahead.
You got it ahead of me.
Who wants that?
Robert.
Give it to
have
Kelly.
it.
It's great.
He was on top of it.
Okay, council, you may vote.
We're just waiting. We don't have it.
You're not seeing it.
No.
We see nothing.
How about with this?
There it is. We always need at least one technically difficult evening. It's been so smooth. We're destined for it this evening.
So council, thank you very much. Motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
And then, if okay with council, Mr. Webb
Mhm.
is on Zoom. He's,
Oh, sure.
if that's
That counts.
okay with you. So Mr. Webb, if
Sure.
you want to join us. Can you hear us?
He has his mute on.
Jeff, you have to take the mute button off.
It'll be on the lower left side.
Sarah, are we able to get him on the picture on the screen?
He's got his audio. Okay, his mute is off.
Okay.
Thank you. It always shows Rusty. Always.
Hi, Jeff, can you hear us?
I can, yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I apologize, everyone. We have a newborn at home and life is a little crazy. So thank you for letting me zoom in.
Thanks for zooming in. We appreciate it.
Yeah, excellent.
So just let us know a little bit why you would like to return to the board and who you are and what you're about.
Yeah, so my name is Jeff Webb and I've had the great fortune of being on the board now for 2 terms. So I'm reapplying. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think it's such a wonderful board. I think what the Parks Board is doing right now in terms of the Parks Master Plan and the developments the city's doing in terms of the continued development of the parks is just wonderful. And it's a joy to be a part of. I think right now there's some very exciting things happening. And so I think it's a great time to continue the work we've been doing as a board. Oh, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay,
We
great.
just all paused with you.
Excellent. Well, I can keep going. I want to be mindful of everybody's time, but maybe a little background is useful. So
Sure.
in addition to serving on the board for the last 2 terms, I've had the opportunity to be the chair, which has been a great experience. My professional background is I'm a landscape architect and planner, and I've worked for parks departments and I've worked for private firms. So I have a good perspective on a lot of the work that needs to happen to really make a successful parks department. So I like to think, I hope that I'm able to bring some of that to the board. So I think that's useful. And then on a personal level, as I say, we have a new baby at home, which gives me a whole new perspective on how our parks are used. So that's very exciting. When I'm not doing baby things now, I love hiking and mountain biking and just getting out in our town.
Very good. Council, do you have any questions or comments?
Well, Jeff, only one comment that it's great that you have a newborn. I'm thinking though, but on your term here, your newborn will just barely be toddling by the time your term goes.
That's true. That's true. Although I think she's quite exceptional. So we'll see. We'll see.
Every parent's. Thank you for volunteering again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, council, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve Jeff Webb's reappointment to the Parks Rec Advisory Board.
I'll second.
Can you see it, council?
No. There it is. Dial up.
Council, thank you. Motion is passed unanimously. Congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you all very much. And thank you for your continued support of parks. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Suzanne, you need Jeff to be in person to swear in, right?
Yeah, Jeff, we'll get you sworn in at a later date, but if I could have Mr. DeZellem and Ms. Brown join me up front, we'll get you oath of office. If you can both raise your right hands and repeat after me, I, and state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Colorado, the charter and ordinances of the city of Woodland Park, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations. Congratulations. Cindy, very nice. Thank you.
All right, and thanks to those volunteers too. It's really nice to have a board where people want to reapply and continue to work with each other. And thank you guys for all your service. We are off to item 3B, which is presentation from the Woodland Park School District. And we have the board here. And I think that Mr. Rusterholz, were you going to present for us and get it going?
Mayor LaBarre, councilman, I appreciate the opportunity to come here and present and tell you about some of the great things that were happening at the school. I understand this used to be a custom that the director.
I just want to make sure your microphone, is it on?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
I understand this used to be a custom that the school board would come here and present every so often, and I would like to reestablish that custom. Also, I'd like to invite each of you to come to one of our board meetings. That would be very nice to have you there. So thank you. At this time, I'd like to just quickly introduce the directors that are here. We have Director Cassie Kimbrell. She is watching by live stream. So we have Vice President, Mr. Illingworth. And Director Patterson is here. And I believe that Director Mick Bates, he is here in the back as well. So thank you. We also have Superintendent Ken Witt is here as well. So at this time, we'll just hand this over to Vice President Illingworth.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So I am Dave Illingworth. I am the Vice President of the Woodland Park School Board. Thank you for having us. This is my first time ever getting to attend the council, so this is great. Before I get going, I would like to introduce Ken Witt, the Superintendent of the Woodland Park School District. Just to let you know, Mr. Witt has a background in engineering. Since 2012, he has been involved in public school education. He was elected to the Jefferson County School Board and became president of that school board after the 2012 election. And for the past more than 10 years, he has been involved in pioneering alternative approaches to education, chiefly through the Board of Cooperative Education Services, which is called the Education Re-envisioned BOCES. And so we are very pleased to have Mr. Witt join us at the Woodland Park School District and join us here tonight. Thank you, Ken. So I don't see the time remaining that I was, but
You have plenty of time.
great.
We give you, yeah.
I'm gonna try it. Oh, I can see. There we go. I'm gonna keep it under 5 minutes. if that
We'll pay
works for
attention for
everybody.
you. Don't worry. So.
I just want to highlight several of the positive trends that we have seen in the Woodland Park School District in the past year. And I'll end with highlighting a particular challenge that we're going to be addressing that I want the community to be aware of. So when I joined the Woodland Park School Board, we had about 1,800 students enrolled full-time in the district. Now that was about 1,000 less than the district had 10 years ago. And we've been seeing declining enrollment for about 4 or 5 years before the 21 election. And we are very pleased that we have grown. For the first time in 10 years, the Woodland Park School District has grown its full-time student enrollment. It's grown by more than 10%, I think about 15%. So we had about 1,800, we have now over 2,000. And what's most exciting about that is that the Woodland Park School District is one of the only districts in the Pikes Peak region that is growing. So while everybody else is going down, we are going up. The only other district in the region that's growing is D49, which, as you know, is out east, and they're building a new neighborhood every month. So they're kind of cheating. We're doing that without seeing an explosion in growth here in the school district, which covers not just the city, but also Florissant, Divide, all the way until you get about to Cripple Creek. So it's mostly the Teller County lines. And so we are seeing that because this school district and this board have become reoriented on the customer, which is the parent who chooses where to send their child in the state of Colorado. And that's been the law in Colorado for about 30 years now. And so one of the ways we did that was by chartering the Merit Academy, which had opened its doors the year before. And Merit Academy has seen explosive growth. They open with about 180 full-time students, and next year they expect to have about 370 full-time students. So they've doubled in 2 years. And so they have brought children back into the Woodland Park School District. That is to the benefit of the entire district. That helps us make sure that we have the money necessary to maintain our facilities. That helps us make sure we have the money necessary, not just to keep our teachers employed, our other professionals employed, but to give them raises to account for the changes in the economy, especially as we see with inflation. And that's what we did last year. We gave the highest raise in the history of the Woodland Park School District to everybody who worked there. Now, it's not just about growth in numbers. At the Woodland Park School District, we are focused on growing academic performance. We are focused on making sure that the Woodland Park School District is offering the type of education, the type of learning environment, the type of culture that is worthy and to the credit of this entire community. So we are rededicating our resources to making sure that not only are we hiring and retaining the best teachers, that we are following the best curriculum, and we are absolutely focused on seeing objective academic performance improvements. That is the focus, and that is the relentless focus that this school board is implementing with Superintendent Witt. The other growth here, ladies and gentlemen, is for opportunities for our parents. It's very exciting that next year, what we're going to be doing is expanding pre-K. Pre-K is going to be available at every single one of our elementary schools at Summit, Columbine, and Gateway. Currently, this year, it's only at Summit and Gateway. Last year was only at Gateway. Next year, anybody who wants to send their child to pre-K, and it's going to be a universal free pre-K, is going to have any one of our elementary schools to choose from. That's to the benefit of our entire community, who, with our parents out there in Florissant, who it's a difficult decision to send their kids all the way to Gateway or something like that. So that's going to improve the convenience and opportunities for our folks. In addition, next year, sixth grade will no longer just be at the middle school. Sixth grade will be redistributed amongst our 3 elementary schools. That increases the choices and opportunities to our parents, who may have a great deal of affection and fondness for a school like Columbine or Gateway that they've been used to for so long. So instead of it only being at one school, now it's going to be at 3 different elementaries. It's also at Merritt Academy. So next year, we're going to have 4 different schools where sixth grade is available. In addition to growing the places that you can send your child to school, we are focused on growing the actual services available to our families. So I want to talk about the fact that next year, the Woodland Park School District will be participating in the free meals program that was passed by the voters of this state last year. And let me explain how that works for everybody. You show up, you want a meal, you get a meal, end of story. No parent is ever billed. At the end of the day, the state reimburses the school district for the number of meals that have been served for our children. So it's a very simple program. We're very excited. And that's another example of how we are improving the services available to our families, which is important because we are competing with those districts down in Colorado Springs for families. This is a choice state. We've got to be able to offer the very best so that families up here send their kids here where their tax dollars are being collected. Also, ladies and gentlemen, let me talk about bus service. So next year, all of our schools will be available by bus. So that includes Merritt Academy, which is our most popular school at this point in terms of the growth that we're seeing year over year on Merritt Academy. We're doing that without any additional cost to the district, to the people of this district. We're not even having to change bus routes because Merritt Academy is housed in the building with the middle school and the buses already go there. So we're just making sure that we are increasing the services available to our families. So if you want to send your kids to Merritt Academy, now you're going to be able to do that on the bus. And that's a good thing for everybody because we don't want to have happen that we have a school that is sort of, let's say, priced out for some of our community members. We want our parents to have the same choices wherever they want to send their kids. They're not going to say, well, if I want to send my kid here, I don't have the same ability to get my kid there, or my kid doesn't get the same opportunities there. We're about making sure that all of our kids are treated equally and fairly. One other thing that we are focused on doing that we hope to be able to achieve before next year is also increasing bus transportation so that, let's say you live in the Summit area, but you have a child who's going to the middle school down there. Maybe you want your younger child to go to Columbine instead of having to go to 2 different schools. You want to go to a school that's closer? We're hoping and we're optimistic that we'll be able to offer bus service so that any member of our community will be able to put their kid on a bus and go to any school in our community, not just the one that's closest geographically to where they're living. And I think that's going to be an exciting way to make sure that we're increasing school choice for our community members. So I'm not sure how much time I have left, but that's really highlighting the positive trends that we've been seeing here, the way that we are improving the growth. I think everybody in this community should be proud of the way the school district has grown. While other school districts are unfortunately looking at cutbacks or looking at layoffs, we have not had that challenge. More student means that our budget remains healthy, which means that our community remains healthy. So I want to end with talking about a challenge, and that's security. All of you are aware of the tragic and terrible things that have been happening with school shootings all over our nation. Recently, we had one up in Denver. And you've probably seen in the newspapers that as a result of that, the Denver School Board decided that suddenly they like cops after all. They had passed a resolution that we don't want police officers, school resource officers. They didn't want them in their schools. And then after somebody gets shot, they decide maybe they do. Now, at the Woodland Park School Board, we love cops. We love our law enforcement. As many of you know, I am a prosecutor for the 4th Judicial District Attorney's Office. I was just doing a trial last week for attempted murder. Good news, the jury got the right verdict on that one. I am also the son of a police officer. My father was a Houston police officer for about 35 years. My brother is a Dallas police officer. I believe that our law enforcement is something that is sacred to this community. I believe they are essential to maintaining our safety and maintaining our way of life. So I would just want all of our law enforcement partners in our community to know that unlike Denver, we would be very pleased if we could have a police officer in every one of our schools, making sure that our most vulnerable, our most precious treasures are protected to the best of our ability. However, this is the security challenge. It is unfortunate, but it is reality that the Woodland Park School Board could not just simply pass a resolution and say, we're going to have an SRO in every one of our schools. It's not a budget problem because we would gladly pay the money for that. It's not a conflict with our sheriff or our chief of police. They do a wonderful job. We're proud for any support they're able to lend us, and we're happy to work with them in a cooperative fashion. And I think, I don't just speak for the school board, I think I speak for the sheriff and the chief of police that we're also of the same mind on this, that we would love to be partners in this. But the problem simply is this. We do not have enough police officers, whether through the Woodland Park Police Department or the Teller County Sheriff's Office, to host an officer in about a full-time capacity at all 6 of our schools, or to have one at all of our events. And so I want the community to recognize that when we don't have a police officer stationed at every school, it doesn't mean that we don't want them there. It doesn't mean that we don't love our police officers and love the sacrifice they make to protect us. We would love to have them there. It's simply a matter that we at the Woodland Park School District are facing the same challenges that the sheriff and the police department are facing in terms of getting enough police officers to be as many places as we'd like them to be. So we cannot just simply pass a resolution to that effect. That's a luxury that Denver has. That's a luxury that they casually tossed aside, and it's a luxury that they are now scrambling to fix once they see the real bloodshed that happens. So I just want the community to understand that challenge, but to also understand that the school district and the school board are laser focused on making sure that our most precious treasures are children, especially our children at our elementary schools that parents entrust to us every day. And not just our children, but of course, our teachers, our staff, our professionals who need to be safe and need to have a good environment to be able to do their job. That we are focused on making sure that we do have secure facilities, that we do have the best security we can to protect our children and our community. And so there are many schools that don't have police officers at every building, but they do maintain an armed presence, whether that's through private security. So this school district will be focused on making sure that we have the best security we can as we go into the next school year in light of the challenges that are unique to our community. And so I just wanted everybody to understand that. So that's really the challenge that we have. In addition to making sure that we're always continuing to improve our education, our services, we're going to be working on making sure that our schools are secure here. And if parents have questions about that, we do have a regular school board meeting next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Anybody who wishes to come, of course, is welcome. And we invite them to make public comment and help us understand how we can better serve them. So if y'all have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks. Council, do you have any questions or comments? Yeah, very good. Thank
Okay.
you.
How'd I do on the 5 minutes?
Good. We usually give 7, but we let you go.
You're good. You're close.
Thank you.
Depends on the evening and the speakers too. So we like to let everybody try to get their thoughts out as much as we can. So
Well, thank you. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time.
thank you very much. And usually we do have our clock and our guests and our speakers' names up there, so. But it's just not on presentations.
We do it on speak. Yeah.
All right, we are off to item C, 3C, which is appointment of council member liaison to the Historical Preservation Committee. And Suzanne, are you presenting that for us?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Mayor. So as council knows, with the resignation of David Ott, there is now an opening on the Historical Preservation Committee. And so we are just looking for council to appoint a liaison to that committee. And what I've given council, what they have before them is every board and committee that council liaisons are appointed to, who is currently assigned to those. You all have that in front of you. And it just shows you that Historical Preservation Committee is vacant. So we were just looking for an appointment to that position.
Okay. Council, is there,
So may I?
sure.
The Historical Preservation Committee reached out to me after David resigned and asked if I would be their liaison, which I don't have an issue with if no one else does.
I'm just looking at this list you gave us, Suzanne,
Yes, sir.
and I see that Councilman member Neal has one liaison position. I have two. Mayor Pro Tem Case has three.
Kelly.
I'm an
Come on.
The
alternate.
mayor has one,
And I'll
and
stay. with
Catherine
one.
has two. I don't notice Frank Connors on any.
He, I
So-
think one thing is left off. He is our military affairs liaison that we created after the last election. And that's really not a board. It
Right,
is-
that's why it's left
it's a
off. It's not
something that
it's not a
he
board
does.
or a committee.
Right. He
Yeah.
does do a lot there for us. I just wanted to recognize that, Frank.
Well, you're
Yes,
bringing up a
Frank.
secondary consideration on this, but given the fact that Frank is not on any of the recognized boards to be a liaison, I would like to suggest Frank be considered for that position. I don't know, maybe you don't want it. Are you interested in it?
No, I'm very interested in it. Thank you.
Okay, is anyone from the Historical Society here this evening?
No, ma'am.
Crickets, huh? Okay, well, we can put both council members' names up and we can take a vote. So if you guys want to do it that way, or
Well, Catherine, you have
or
two
not
others. Are
make a
you,
nomination.
are you willing to surrender one of those to, if you?
Well,
could take that on?
Main Street's not doing anything at the moment and UAC is not taking up that much of my time, but no, I would like to keep both of them.
What, when do they meet?
They meet Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month at 3:30.
Didn't you send an email saying you couldn't make it to council at 6?
No, I did not. I said it would be difficult for citizens to make the council meetings at 6, not me.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you guys got to nominate. Somebody make a motion.
Well, I'd make a motion for Frank.
Okay, let me just get this up here. So is that an official motion?
Yeah,
sir?
it's an official motion. Yeah, I said, only because just in terms of spreading this around, I just think it's like, Anyway, so Frank. Anyone else?
Well, I kind of,
You can second yourself.
I kind of like to hear the HPC's position on it, and I thought they would have a representative here to say something.
To be honest with you, I would have liked to have known what the city's, what direction we have for even appointing any of these. I'm
It's just-
still having a hard time understanding exactly. Our charter doesn't say that there's a requirement for city council to be on any of our committees.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out exactly how we're even going to vote if we don't even have an ordinance or rule or anything in place to do this. And we've done this since October, since last April. But we still really don't have a way of doing it properly.
It's a fair comment.
Well, it's something, for years, I've been around for 25 years and for years, it's been a conversation after the election between the council to divvy up, if you will, who wants to serve where, and that's kind of how it falls out. And it's really just kind of, so a council person is sitting in on those committee meetings, as I do for PRAB, and reports back. And keeps the council kind of in the loop as to what's going on in those committee meetings. So that's kind of how it's fallen out. I don't think it's a set process or procedure. It's just something that the council fusses through after an election, and this falls out.
I'm not sure that that's how I see how it's been done. I was
Okay.
serving on PPACG and the elections came, and then if there's no official process, you now are serving on 3 boards. How did that occur? And Frank's on none. And if it's just something that's done by something we've done for 25 years, it doesn't seem very balanced.
I am an alternate on 2 boards. I am the liaison to PrEP.
Yeah, being mayor pro tem, she becomes the alternate. So that's how she's under PPACG.
Yeah, that's,
So
I,
like my name should be there too.
yes.
Well, you're there. I see you. Yeah.
I just wanted to understand how we've been doing this for so long with not anything in place. Once again, we have another policy that we're not holding. Our chairmans of all these committees are supposed to be reporting directly to council according to our charter. Not the other way around, not council reporting to council.
Just one correction, Councilmember Connors, what you're quoting is what I sent you today,
Right,
which is not the charter, it's the council's rules and procedures. I
right,
just need to
absolutely. But if you look at the charter specifically calls out what's on those committees and it is not council.
Frank, say that again. I'm sorry. I just lost the thought. I won't understand.
Our charter does not have city council members on our committees.
Then you're not. Right, I was gonna say that. So a lot of the board's bylaws say that whether there's a council liaison and you're not an official voting member of those commissions, you're just that liaison.
Well, some of them.
Well, there
Oh,
are
some-
some
okay, so that's the
DDA.
bylaws, okay.
Rusty is.
Yeah, I was gonna say DDA.
DDA is.
And
Well, it's-
actually Catherine and I are. Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
I hold myself. Right,
Right.
I was thinking more of the like planning commission kind of thing. So that's in the bylaws, which are voted on and approved, voted on by the boards and approved by the council.
Well, Frank brings up a good point. If there's no procedure in either our charter or our bylaws for us to vote on members, and for the last 25 years, it's been just a kind of an agreement. Okay, you go here, you go there, you go there. Now we have seems like 2 folks vying for it and neither one wants to say no. So how do we resolve that legally or properly?
I would say a vote by
A vote.
council. So you made a motion, and now if there's a majority that approved that, then the council is standing behind this liaison for that commission.
Mhm.
So there is a public process for it.
So we do have an open motion on the floor. Do we have a second? I didn't hear a second.
I'll second myself.
I'll second. I don't usually do motions or seconds, but since there was, I'll
Okay.
second.
You may vote council for this motion. This motion is to appoint Councilmember Connors to the HPC. Who came up this time?
Oh, it's a flip of the coin to me. This is.
I'm just waiting for one person to vote. No. Thank you, council. Motion has passed. Councilmember Connors, you are the HPC liaison. Thank you.
Frank, I didn't realize you didn't have anything.
Well, you know, it's there. You're gonna have to think about it if we do fix it.
All right, yeah, we're gonna move on to item 3. Where are we? 3D, proclamation celebrating E911 dispatchers for National Telecommuters Week. And our chief of police is sauntering up to present.
Yes, I know. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager, Madam Clerk. Nice to see everybody again. First, I appreciate the fact that you're willing to give us this time to come up here and highlight some of our folks again on a pretty cool occasion. You know, we do this every year. And if memory serves me right, I believe it's the second week of April every year that's been designated as National Telecommunicators Week. Well, what does that mean? That means that at least for 1 week, we get to jump up and down and rant and rave about some of the fine folks that you're going to meet here in just a few minutes that are in the back of the room. Let me tell you, I have worked with a lot of dispatching crews in my time, and the finest folks in the room are in the back, and you'll meet them. Not only do they wear the police department hat, but as you well know, they also dispatch the fire side and the medic side. So they're running 3 different teams at once. And to see what they have done and what they continue to do to continue to move the agency forward in a way that embodies a level of customer service that I've watched them display and then take to other levels that far exceed that when I got here is pretty outstanding. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time, but I will tell you that sometimes people say that the uniforms are the first face of the police department that most people will see when they call us. Sometimes that's during good times and other times it's not so good times. I give to you the first faces, so to speak, of the police department that you encounter are the folks that you're going to meet here in just a few minutes. They are the ones who maintain the calm in the storm. They are the ones who continuously watch our backs. They are the ones who continuously asking the questions for us that we wish we could and we hoped that they would be. We had a case not too long ago that you may hear about in the future at a different meeting where this team came together impeccably. And I know that there's at least one person here who would like to tell you that story, but perhaps we'll save that for another day. In the meantime, if you don't mind, ma'am, if you would humor me and let me call these fine folks up to the front. If you would like to read the proclamation into the record, I would love to have you do that.
Sure.
I'd like to call them up.
Yeah.
So come on up, folks, be recognized, it's your time. So as they make their way to the front of the room, wherever you want to go, it's fine. As they make their way to the front of the room, you will find that there are varying levels of experience in the group that you'll meet. The best part about the teamwork spirit that they embody is that where one person finds a need for help or assistance, another one will jump right in and help them. The goal is to make their efforts as seamless as possible to all of you who call on them and all of us who count on them. So, Mayor, I'll drop it off to you.
Sure. The City of Woodland Park proclamation for National Telecommunicators Week, April 9th through the 15th, 2023. There's a lot of whereases in this, so bear with me. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of law enforcement officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the preservation and protection of life and property. And whereas the safety of our law enforcement officers, firefighters, and emergency medical service responders is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone Woodland Park Police Department. And whereas public safety dispatchers and call takers are the first contact for our citizens and are critical for emergency services. And whereas public safety dispatchers and call takers provide pre-arrival medical, fire, and public safety instructions which have saved lives. And whereas public safety dispatchers are the single vital link for our law enforcement officers, firefighters, and emergency medical service responders by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety dispatchers and call takers in Woodland Park have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatments of patients. And whereas each dispatcher and call taker has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Woodland Park does hereby proclaim the week of April 9th through the 15th, 2023, National Telecommunicators Week in Woodland Park to support and honor the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Woodland Park to be affixed this 6th day of April, 2023.
What I would like to say is, as the mayor's coming down, some of you may notice that there's someone missing, and our dispatch supervisor, Jen Tobias, isn't here. And you may be wondering, where's Jen? Well, and I will tell you, she did this all on her own, but in the embodiment of the servant leadership mentality, she's
Right.
running the console while Brian's here.
Way to go, Jen.
Chief, maybe we could call 911 and all clap.
Well, they'll be able to triangulate us quick. Heart attack. Folks, as the city manager is making his way down the line, I will tell you that the gratitude these folks have just shown you shallows to the one that I have for all of you. So thank you for what you've done for me over the last year. I will thank you in advance for what you hopefully will continue to do for us as we move forward together. I'm looking for new and exciting ways to keep this boat moving. And with my thanks, thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Robin.
All right, we are off to item 4, additions, deletions, or corrections. We have none. Item 5, consent calendar. 5A. Approval of the March 16th, 2023 regular city council minutes. And Suzanne.
Thanks, Mayor LaBarre. This evening, as you said, we have the March 16th city council meeting minutes for your approval.
Council, are there any?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second. Sorry.
I think I heard Frank first. Okay. Council, you may vote. Thank you, council. Motion is passed unanimously.
All right, we are off to item 6A, or 6. There's no A, B, or C. It's just 6. Suzanne, do you have a list?
I do. We're going to start with our speakers that sign up online first. And this evening, the first speaker to sign up is Lorraine Merle. And I don't know if she's with us in the audience. Yes, she is. Come on up.
This is hitting my forehead. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'll just say it's been a number of years since I have come to the public to speak. So I just want to start by saying every morning I wake up and say, stand out for the positive. How lucky am I? And I want to say thank you to the mayor and the council and Suzanne. Thank you for being here. I know how much you put into this job. And when I moved here 26 years ago, I said, stay out of the public eye. I made a decision to move to this community, go to work, do my job, and let everybody else do their job. And so, thank you so much. Like I said, I've been here 26 years, taxpayer 25, and the reason I'm making these points is I've been a business owner in this community for 20 years, and I'm hoping nobody knows me up here. I know, darn it. And that is my purpose, is to stay low key, not speak out. Listen. I had an attorney one time say, be very quiet and just listen. And that's what I do. But unfortunately, things have changed. And I want to talk about what's happening in the school. And I feel so bad that I have to come here to speak out and take up your precious time tonight. I know it's a long night for everyone. So thank you for your patience. I have attended every school board meeting for approximately a year and a half. I've had to step out because I've been watching and listening, and I thought, how do I really know unless I attend the meetings? I don't have to keep track of you guys. You do your job. And so I've attended every meeting. I've attended everything that's going on with the school, all the way to get up at wee hours of the morning and see what's happening at the protest. I have been, children speak out at the school board meetings, I think as young as the 6th grade. Begging, I've heard people begging, crying, yelling, screaming. And I have not agreed. I have not been lucky enough to be chosen with my name out of the fishbowl. I think we've graduated up to a basket now because there's so many requests. And that's why I'm here. Someday I'll be lucky enough for my name to be pulled out, but nobody has been able to hear me. I know there is one board member, and I will give credit where credit is due. I'll try and catch him and ask him a question or two before or after the meeting. And he has listened. And oh, when I say stand out for the positive, I do want to go back. I've never been to a council meeting in 15 years, never had to. I didn't even know where to go. So I stopped at the city office today, and I will tell you, 3 people treated me like a queen. They printed out the agenda. Some person took me back here to show me where the chamber is. And I'm just going to say how lucky we are that we have such fine folks in the city. So thank you. But I do want to let everybody know, I don't think anybody but one person really knows who I am. They probably see my face, but I want to express that I am not happy with the decisions that are being made at the school board. I want to say that publicly. I'm now coming out to speak. There's one decision I was happy about, and that was mentioned about the free lunch. I voted for that, so good on them. But I don't feel that some of us are being heard. Like I said, the children are coming and speaking. Why does a 6th grader have to come up to the city council or to the school board member and speak out? Why do the high school students have to come there and speak out? And when they speak, this is how I feel they're treated. Shh. Shh. They're not listening. And so I didn't know until today that I had the opportunity to come speak. And I, again, appreciate your forum, that I'm not selected out of a fishbowl, and that how lucky I am to be able to get up and speak. And there's just, I don't want to take up any more of your time to go into why I'm not happy, but I've been in this community a long time, never once felt that I had to go to a school board meeting. Raised my family here. They're still here. They went through the public education system, and they're very successful. And again, I will close. I just wanted to tell you how I feel. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you. And just so the audience knows, we do give everyone 3 minutes, but the irony of what Lorraine was saying and then having to cut her off. Was not deaf to me. And it is, we do try to abide by it, but we also try to let people get their thoughts out and end their sentences and catch a breath. And sometimes people are very nervous to come up and speak, and we recognize that, and we want to give them the opportunity to get their point across. And sometimes we have very thorough, excellent speakers who are also used to speaking. And when they keep going over, we're like, okay, guys, time, and they know. So, because they're not new to the whole process either. But it is at mayor's discretion, it's at chair's discretion as to how long someone can continue to go. And sometimes it also depends on the night. And now I'll stop so the next person can come up.
Okay, next up, we have Mary Sikowski. You're on 9A, Mary? Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, I think she may have left. Carol Harvey? She's gone? Patricia Stinner. You're on 9A, okay. Jean Harris,
Yeah, and this is item 6 for items not on agenda. So see, we have some pros in the audience who also know how it works, so
I've gotten it wrong in the past, so I tried to do it right this time.
Jean's prepared.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens of Woodland Park. I'd just like to start by reading a quote out of the Pikes Peak Courier from last week, I guess it was. Before resigning, Ott said he checked with attorneys to find a loophole. This is about him living elsewhere and trying to potentially remain on the city council. And I just want to say that for my council members, I want you to be a full-time resident here so that the citizens, voters, and taxpayers have an opportunity to look at you face to face, not have to listen to somebody on Zoom because they're living elsewhere, but still on my city council. I think that's a disservice to the citizens that you say you represent, the people who put you in those seats. So I don't know, the state law says you've got to be a resident. I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but I say no loopholes allowed for my city council. You're part of this community or you're not. And if you're not part of my city council. The other thing I'd just like to kind of touch on real quick is the topic of building permits for the project that Charis Bible College and Uwamic Ministries has going on. I hear lots of different stories and whys and wherefores, why the permits aren't forthcoming, but once again, I don't want my tax dollars going to defend a lawsuit. I don't know what the issue is, but I'm encouraging you, asking you to find out where the holdup is and address that and get it fixed so that this doesn't end up in a lawsuit, because that's a no-win for everybody. Just real quick, 5G. That's something that's been put in place by a bunch of unelected bureaucrats. So they're creating laws, which is unconstitutional. The only people that can create laws in this state are the legislatures. Elected representatives put there by the people to speak for them, not some group who are doing whatever they want to do. I don't like the idea of being held hostage by threats from some bureaucracy saying, well, if you don't do what we say, we're going to come after you. I say, no, that's a fight worth fighting for. And no, we shouldn't allow that to happen. They want to take over our city and say, we're going to put these up whether you like it or not. I say, no, let's not do that. So thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
and that's all we have signed up this evening, Mayor.
Okay, nobody on Zoom?
There's nobody that has their hand up on Zoom.
All right. Moving on. We are on item 7, unfinished business, and we have 7A, and Suzanne's gonna fill us in on that one.
So Mayor and Council, as you know from our last council meeting, David Ott resigned from the city council. And so now council has to make a decision on how they want to fill former council member Ott's position. So we laid it out for you last time, the different options that you have, and you decided to put it on the agenda here to think about. And so tonight I am looking for direction on how you'd like to appoint to that position.
Okay. Council, you guys anybody want to start?
Yeah.
I have an idea. Can I share it? Get out. Why don't we open it up for an application process to the community? And in 30 days, have the clerk report back to us and consider them. That's just my idea.
Suzanne, could you tell us what our options are? I know we talked about it a little before this meeting, but could you tell us what?
Sure.
Yeah.
So council has, if you recall, council changed the charter. We had a charter amendment. Citizens voted on it, approved it. So you do have different options. One is you can just make a motion, you can just pick somebody, you can just appoint somebody. Two is you can open up the application process and have applications come in and then interview those individuals and then appoint someone. Three is you can bring it to an election. And four is you can do nothing and leave it as is. So those are the four choices that council has before them.
Could you further clarify that? So if we do pick someone or an application process, how long do they serve?
They would, let's see, Michael, you and I talked about this and what did we decide?
I think the attorney is probably the better one to answer that.
Yes.
They finish the rest of Councilmember Ott's term.
So 3 more years.
No, that's actually incorrect.
Oh, it's different in the charter.
Yeah, it's until the next election. So whoever it is has to
Okay, sorry.
go for the next election because they haven't served 18.
We
yeah.
had this discussion in
Okay, sorry,
Lent.
you
I
go.
was gonna say, yeah, until about this week next year.
Right, so they would go to the 2024 election. So what that would mean is at that election, then we would have 5 council seats up.
And then if I understand it also, the person that gets the fewest votes is the one that would fill the shortest term.
Correct.
Because that, Frank, you went through that, I think.
That was the anchorman. So if it goes to, okay, so that's 1 and 2. Now, if it goes to 3, which is an election, if we have a special election and we elect the person, does it go only till the following April, or does it go all the way through to the end of his term being 3 years,
Also,
3 more years?
also April of next year.
So there's really no point in doing a special election because it'd only be 6 months or something.
Well, but
I mean, it
that's,
could be.
that's,
It's an
that's up
option.
to you.
It's
but
an option, yeah,
it-
okay.
It would be a lot of
Cost.
election for that person. in a short time.
Okay, yeah. And then nothing, well, there's nothing.
So you guys
Well-
get to decide.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem Case, that is an option for sure. I know that we have subjected the citizens to interview before this council. And from my observation, we've created some hesitancy from the members of the community to come up before us. Because it seems like in many cases, we don't think the person is qualified or good enough for the position. So we could do that. The other thing we could do is we could look at some of those who have already put their hat in the ring a number of times for council, who have the competency, and simply appoint someone. And a person who comes to mind to me for that is Don DeZellem. Do you want to say something about that, Frank? Well,
I think if you want to do that, you have to
Kelly
make
just
a
put up
motion.
a suggestion. I'm putting up that suggestion as well. So how do you guys feel about that? And it would be something we could do now, as opposed to dragging it out for another, month, 6 weeks, whatever. Say again? Oh, like we did with Councilmember Nakai. That's right. Exactly what we did for you, Catherine.
So-
That's exactly.
Rusty, do you have an opinion on what procedure you would?
I would probably go along with 3 out of those 4 options. I don't want to spend money on a special election for the next year.
Mhm.
If there's a motion to do it that way, it's seconded and 4 people vote for somebody from the past. Okay, that's an acceptable option. Doing nothing and seeing what happens with the 6 of us. We've done that before and there's some pros and cons with that. It gives 3 people veto power over the other 3. So that's a check and a balance. So it could be beneficial, and then advertising and having applicants come in and see who's interested. I'd be in favor of that too. If I were to prioritize, I would probably go with applicants, open applicants. Probably do nothing and then just an appointment. But if there's a motion, I'll, and it's seconded, I'll cast a vote on whoever it is.
I'm
One
gonna
way or
go
the
to
other.
Catherine next, so, thank you.
I'm going to agree with Rusty.
Okay,
I mean, if I had to prioritize it, I do the applications, the 30 days. I don't think we have a problem at this point at being 6 personally. I'm not gonna spend money on a special election.
okay. Frank has no comment. Oh,
No, I have no issues filling it with the last runner-up.
okay. Kelly, yours was application.
Yes.
Okay,
Do we need a motion?
Well, we might, just the way the priorities sounds like, we might as well start with, I make a motion to appoint Don DeZellem.
I'll second.
Can you just give me 1 second to catch up here, council? I'm sorry.
Well, before we do that, don't we have to have a consensus that would be that would be an acceptable way of doing it?
well, he
Or is
could
that-
just make a motion and it'll either
That's fine.
pass,
It's on the agenda,
pass or
topic.
fail. Yeah,
It's acceptable because it's on the agenda.
yes,
The topics on the agenda.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Zulawaga, a second by Councilmember Connors. Council, you may vote on the motion before you. Thank you, council. Motion has failed. 2-4 with Labar, Case, Neal, and Nakai voting no.
so the second option then is taking applications.
Application.
I'll make a motion to take the application process for a 30-day period.
I'll second that motion. Do we need to vote on?
You do.
Okay.
And this is for the application process. I have a first by Case, a second by Neal. Thank you. Council motion has passed 5-1 with Connors voting no.
So if you'll let the audience know and council know what that means date
Sure.
wise.
So what we will do is, for the public and for council, anyone interested, we will accept applications through noon on April 27th. So they'll be coming, the applications, we'll post this, we'll put this up online. You'll fill out the regular counts, the regular boards and committees application that you always fill out. And those will be due into the office by April 27th at noon. They will go into the packet for the May 4th council meeting, where during the regular meeting, we'll hold interviews and council can make their selection if they desire.
So may the 4th be with you. Okay, council, any questions? About that? Robert?
Yeah, so I have a legal question in advance. Dina, so when that application process comes before us, what would occur if we have a draw?
Yeah, it would fail because you need a majority.
We've had that.
Okay, so what does that mean then?
Oh, so then it says, yeah, so
I
that,
totally get that.
okay, sorry, that's procedural. And then it says like if the council fails to reach a majority vote in the appointment of a new member, then the council may call a special election. That's what the charter says.
Or we're back to do nothing.
Or you could probably, you can bring it back to the agenda too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'd just like to comment for the record that I think fellow council members, it does the city a disservice for us to not fill that position. So,
I agree.
yeah, okay.
Okay, we're off and running. We're on to 8A, consider ordinance 1445, and our finance director, Aaron Vassilotti, is presenting. Yeah.
The bag one. Call me the bag man. The bag.
Bag man.
Good evening. Tonight I have for you ordinance number 1445, which was actually drafted by Nina and her team. This is the 10-cent disposable bag fee. It's Colorado House Bill 21-1162. It went into effect January 1st, 2023. And essentially, a store may furnish a recycled paper, carryout bag, or single-use plastic bag to a customer at the point of sale if the customer pays 10 cents per bag, or a higher fee adopted by the municipality or county in which the store is located. And then on or after January 1st, 2024, a store may furnish only a recycled paper carryout bag to a customer at the point of sale at a fee of 10 cents per bag or higher imposed by the municipality or county. All right, so a store is required to remit on a quarterly basis, and this is based on the bill itself. Beginning April 1st, 2024, 60% of the carryout bag fee revenues to the municipality, in this case, the city, and 40% they get to keep for the administration of this program. And then there's a special note that the carryout bag fee does not apply to customer that provides evidence to the store that the customer is a participant in a federal or state food assistance program. Okay, and then the allowable uses for the city of that 60% is that the administrative enforcement cost incurred as a result for us to administer. And then also the city can use it for any recycling, compost, or any other waste diversion programs and or related outreach or education activities. So staff needs a few points of direction from council on how we would like to implement this. So the first thing is the bill itself says 10 cents. The city can pick any fee higher than that if they would like, or they can keep it 10 cents. So we would like direction to know, is 10 cents the amount we'd like to go with? The second item in here is that the bill requires quarterly remittance. Do we want to go with quarterly or we would like to make it monthly? And secondly, the bill makes it effective April 1st, 2024 for remittance. Do we want to make it earlier than that? Staff recommendation is monthly and July 2023. So those are the first couple items. If we could get some direction on that piece, and then we can look at the next items.
Well, I'm going to say, since Robert's on Keep Woodland Park Beautiful and we talked about this, how much do you want to make that fee? I'm just kidding.
$5 or $10 a bag for sure.
150.
Yeah, really.
That would limit the program real quick.
Well, being on Cape Woodland Park Beautiful and being a closet tree hugger, I I am very much for keeping the environment clean and neat. However, I have a huge distaste for the state to come in and mandate whether I bring a bag in or it costs me for a bag. So because this is being pushed on us from above, stick with the 10 cents, in my opinion. Quarterly, if that works best for you, is fine with from my opinion. But as far as the actual legislation, I have some comments about that when we get to it.
Did you recommend monthly as staff recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
Where did I see quarterly?
Quarterly is the state bill. That's what they recommended.
And what was the start date again? July this year?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and we have already had several businesses asking if they can go ahead and start remitting, but we have not enabled that at this point.
Eric, question. We have a criteria that triggers a monthly filing.
Yes.
Based on the remittance of a certain amount monthly.
Correct.
If they exceed that certain amount, then we ask them to file monthly. Otherwise, we allow quarterly filings. Would that work in this instance?
It would. Yes.
So that's what I would think would stay with the same policy that you're already doing from an operations standpoint.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We
Does
just
that
want the
it-
ability to be able to collect it monthly for those filers who are already filing monthly.
So why don't we follow the operating policy that you have in place for filers? And then it doesn't inconvenience them that are already filing either monthly or quarterly, or even yearly or semi-annually.
That sounds great. So what our policy is right now in Muni Revs is monthly is the standard.
Mhm.
But if anyone asks to do quarterly based on their, yes. we can follow.
Because their
exact-
sales are lower.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. That's what I would say would be best for staff. Actually, and for our businesses as well.
Yes.
Well, I guess the question is, Aaron, if you do it this way, it's a minimal cost to the city to do that, right?
Correct.
That's the easiest, I mean, the most cost-effective way for staff time.
Yes, so Muni Revs will have a new line on the sales tax form, so it will be easier for the businesses and for us if we can just follow the same policy.
Perfect.
Any guess on how much money we'll make for all our things you had listed?
I really don't have a good estimate.
Thank you. I didn't think so. I couldn't, I get
I don't-
mine and make sure I cut 2 holes out.
And I do
seeing the
think it will
bank.
be less next year, of course, because they're going to eliminate the plastic bags and only have paper, so.
Oh.
it's-
It's,
Yeah.
Oh.
And
I don't
just to,
think we're gonna be paving roads with. the
no,
money.
just to preface this, I know, I think I can speak for majority of council on this. We don't like having to do this at all. But we also realized, and we asked Michael, and we are aware of what the city of Fountain was doing, and
Oh,
that they decided not to charge the fee. Well, they're charging the fee, but they're remitting it back, but the procedural cost of doing that outweighed dealing with this at its face value for us.
It's gonna have
So,
to be more than 10 cents a pack.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
It'll
gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, so unfortunately, it's easier and more fiscally responsible to just agree to this and then put the money towards something that benefits the city.
I
So,
keep Woodland Park beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
because I asked at least if we could kind of earmark it, not knowing how much it will be. It could be $1,000, it could be
$20.
$20, it could be several thousand. I don't know. Because maybe there are people out there that are willing to pay 10 cents for their bags
Right.
and it's just us that aren't. But
Yeah.
anyhow, if we can earmark it towards Keep Woodland Park Beautiful, that's what we'd like to do. So,
I would
Okay.
be. I
and
would
we'll
be-
go with your recommendations.
Yeah,
Yep, we're good with that.
absolutely.
All right, so the next item in the ordinance is the penalty for offenses within a 2-year period. So the way the ordinance is written is the first offense would be a warning within 2 years, and then the second offense would be $500, and the third offense would be $1,000.
For a 10-cent bag.
So the penalties for not remitting
Yes.
it's for
And-
not remitting the 10 cents per bag.
Yeah, to the store.
To the,
Right.
Yeah, because they've been collecting it since January 1st.
Right.
Yeah. I recommend that you do the first offense as a warning, the second offense is a warning, and the third offense is a warning. And we don't spend any money trying to enforce a bag lady law. I mean, it's just wrong. This is so
What happened to
stupid.
the bad guy? The bad
Well, the bad guy, I mean, okay, he's gender neutral. I'm not saying that. And besides, they do a great service. They pick up lots of those bags.
Right?
They should
Good
get a
people.
credit.
They
I think
should.
they should get 10 cents a
Yeah.
bag.
And a shopping cart credit.
And the other thing while we're on it, the language of the ordinance says, in the best interest of the general health, safety and welfare of its residents. I would say that really what it's saying is in the best interest of the beauty of our city and not put in all this newfangled goofy language about safety and welfare.
That's just what gives us the ability
Authority.
to
Well, is it unacceptable to say the beauty of our city instead of all that other stuff? Could you just say appropriate in the best interest of the beauty of our city to amend Title III of Woodland Park Municipal Code?
I would like to at least keep one of those, at least welfare, because.
It's not about welfare.
Well, because this is what charges us with the ability to have these ordinances pursuant to the police powers of our state statute. That being said, I think there's low risk here if you take away those words in this case. So I'm not gonna, jump on the table and argue about that one.
Well, I would propose that, and I would propose on page 24 in our notes, say where it says adoption of Plastic Pollution Reduction Act. The last line of that paragraph says it shall be a municipal violation for any person to violate the provisions of the Plastic Pollution Reduction Act as amended from time to time. Just strike that, because above it says that the act may be amended from time to time, and just get rid of all that violation. I just hate to see somebody in the city police jail for violating the serious transgression of our laws. And then the second, and the second one is about the written warning on B. Just strike everything after punishable by the issuance of a written warning and just get rid of all that. 500 and 1,000 stuff.
So the only thing I would say is that that's then just strike the whole section because, you know, a warning is really means nothing if you're not going to give a fine, but.
I
don't
want to follow
wanna
the state
take-
law.
I don't want to take away the ability of the finance staff to enforce equity among the taxpayers. If they're going to collect this, it is to go to the public and not be kept. This is to enforce the correct filing of the business to remit the collection of the tax, if you will, of the fee, if you will. And so this is, and it doesn't have to be that stiff, but there needs to be a consequence. Because some people will file their returns and they will remit as they're supposed to do. But there are those that will not and take advantage of it if there isn't a consequence to do that. It doesn't have to be $500 and $1,000, but having served in that role, it creates an inequity amongst the tax-paying public.
Well, it is already, it's an inequity because it's saying that if you are on a federal program, assistance program, this doesn't apply to you.
This
It
isn't,
also says that if you have under 3 businesses, it does not apply to you. So this is already being selective. And so if it's going to a business like some of our box stores, this is just a line item like Aaron is saying, this is not a big deal. And for us to put any time, attention towards enforcement and punishment is absolute waste of the taxpayers' dollar.
I'm just telling you that it's discriminatory and it's inequitable. And it's just not appropriate. And it can be $20, but we need to be able to enforce. This is not the taxpayer paying the tax. This is the collector remitting. And it is money they've collected on behalf of the government. And I'm not advocating for the government. I'm just telling you equity and process. It's been imposed. It's not the business's money to keep. They get to keep a portion of it. And if there isn't the opportunity for enforcement, then it will be abused and it creates inequity between those that do what they're supposed to do and those that do not and need to have a push.
I'm okay
It's
with 20
important.
bucks. With 20 bucks, I'm okay. That's fine. I mean, I'm not
That was
really,
an
but you know, if that's gonna
It
be a
needs
holdup
to
for
be.
you, it's $120 is not gonna kill us. So sure.
I would say second offense is a $50 fine. We've got late fees and penalties
triple.
in our sales tax.
You mean 20 and
ordinances.
50 instead of.
But
50 and 100.
well,
I
I
don't know
would
what
like
it
to
is,
make
but-
sure that it's not less than what it's gonna cost Aaron to go after. and
That's the
collect.
other
So
side of it. That's
the-
exactly.
is.
I don't want the
Yes.
city spending money that
So
we're gonna spend $300 to collect $20.
that's the question of enforcement. I mean, most, you know, whether or not we enforce this is a separate aside. I'm sure that it's not gonna be employed that, you know, people are gonna be standing outside the stores like with, you know, black sunglasses, you know, it's.
Aaron's not gonna wear a sign that says
This is a section that, this is a section that you just, if you need to, you're gonna enforce, just because we have you know, it's a decision, a discretion of the staff, whether they
It is.
actually enforce.
Yes. Yes.
So let's let the rest of council chime in. I'd like to hear from Catherine and Rusty on this because we need a consensus to change these things. So I'd like your guys' opinions.
As far as the penalties,
Yes.
yeah.
And
I mean-
also the wording. That,
Oh, the wording is fine with me. I don't have an issue with the wording. The penalties, I think is a little stiff with the 500 and 1,000. I'd be fine with 50 or 100 or 100 and 200, something nominal, yeah. Something less than $500 between the two.
That's 1,000 bags. Could be that guy instead of peas in the wheelbarrow.
yep, that's right. Better be checking on eBay.
The new recycle.
Rusty.
I think.
I didn't read it real carefully because it's first reading. I thought we would just,
It's just
I
direction.
know the direction.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to the conversation. My concern is that we don't have public comment, so I kind of wanted to hear what the public might have thought about the the penalty amounts, I do agree with Kelly, there should be a penalty if they don't, because
Right.
the citizens are paying the money.
Mhm.
It's being collected in theory to be remitted to the city to be spent back on the citizens. So I would like to have a mechanism in place to ensure that,
Enforcement.
you know, it's the hammer over somebody, just make sure you give it back so that
Right.
the people spend. So we can start with a placeholder of 500 and 1,000 after the warning. And then I reserve the right to listen to what the public says about those dollar amounts. Because if they come all in and say it's way too high, you know, like Robert, you're saying $20 maybe all they're interested, I'll listen to, you know, what the public says on the dollar amount. It's kind of high, you know, 500 and 1,000 for paper bags, but I don't know the total for plastic. I'm sorry, yeah, not even paper, you're right, plastic. But you know, I don't know how much money we're talking about that they're hanging on. That would come from a little bit more information, so.
Isn't it
I'm
funny?
okay
This
with the
is-
language as presented.
Okay,
So you get a consensus on the language.
yeah.
I would
'cause-
like to see it, one of the words, because it has nothing to do with safety. I mean, I wouldn't mind to see that
Right.
word stricken.
And this is-
Insert what Robert has proposed. I think that language is not for the
From a
beautification
legal
of the city,
perspective.
but. I mean,
It's
those are
the
my thoughts.
authority that we have to.
I'm okay to get it
maintain.
to the first, or to get it to public comment.
Okay, so normally this is this is initial posting. We don't normally go into so much discussion, but I
know.
knew that you guys had some things to say about this one. So, and the reason it matters though is because when they bring it back, I want to be able to just carry forward with stuff.
Yes,
So
get it
that's
done.
why I'm letting council talk about it before on initial posting.
And I
So,
picked up on the fact that it's legislative.
Right.
And that's why you've allowed this, other than
yeah,
QJ, it's just, we couldn't even have this conversation, so.
right.
So I'm listening to what you're all saying.
So what I'm hearing is council would like the penalties to be less. And I think we'll go ahead and, Robert, I hear what you're saying about the wording, but I think consensus is just leave the wording alone for now. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Well, do you have?
Look at my vote.
I would, yeah, Frank, where are you? Because I would add the little clause that you're saying, because I do like the beautification.
Listen to your counsel's direction. Your attorney has told you why that's there.
Well, and that's why I'm saying you can leave those there. I don't like safety, but because I don't think it has anything to do with safety, but.
Nothing to do with safety.
yeah. It's a suffocation
being literal.
hazard.
Just because they give us something out of Denver that they say we have to enact, we were all given a brain, for God's sake.
Exactly.
We're given a brain and we are given freedom, and they have all these pity stupid little laws that they impose upon us. And then we're supposed to dutifully say, okay, that's, to me, is irresponsible.
Mayor, can I make a motion?
Yeah.
I'd like to make oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Erin.
The other item was just keep Woodland Park beautiful, but you've already spoken on that, so I'm good.
Sorry. I should have waited. All right. So make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1445 series 2023 on initial posting with the staff's recommendations. And set the public hearing for April 20th, 2023.
I'll second it if we can put in there the suggested amendments per the attorney's recommendations that I indicated.
What were those?
Oh, you mean the ones that, not recommendations, but
Suggested changes in language, yeah, yeah.
so best interest of general.
That would have to be a second, subsidiary motion.
My
Well,
motion
no, I
is
was saying I would second it if she makes
my
her
motion
motion.
is as
That's
written.
what I'm saying, yeah.
So, okay, so hold on.
Oh.
He can, he can amend the motion.
Okay. After a second.
Yeah. No,
It's first reading.
Because it's first reading. right?
Do we just have a motion? It has not been seconded.
I'll second the motion
Okay.
and then I'll listen to Robert to see if there's
right.
Thank you.
an
So
amendment.
my request is a, what is it called? A favorable,
An amendment.
The amendment.
friendly amendment to change the language that I suggested here, changing general health, safety and welfare to be the beauty of the city. And then at the A and B, strike the second line of A, the last line of A and the everything after a warning on B. It has the stiff.
The only, you can't impose a penalty for a violation if it's not a violation. So the second, that sentence that you're asking to strike, just to clarify, it says it shall be a municipal violation for any person to violate. That gives the city the right then to impose the penalty because it's stating it's a violation. So I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, and my suggestion is that it not be a violation, it be a warning, and that the results are simply a warning. Because we don't spend any city money, we don't spend any staff money on it. This is all for larger corporations. It's going to be a line item on their tax submittal that they do anyway. It's not gonna be anything that's.
No, that's not how it works. So it's the stores have to collect the fee.
Correct,
If they're not collecting the fee, the store,
right,
they're the ones who face the penalty.
right, but they're going to
Or if they don't
collect it.
remit.
They're
If they
all,
don't
they all
remit.
have larger than 3 stores. It's gonna be anyone who's got multiple stores in this state. It's gonna be something that's on their books. Then they're gonna get their submittal form from Aaron, which has
I
that
know, but
line.
if they don't do it,
When they've already collected it.
we need the ability to enforce them doing it.
Yeah, I could-
Otherwise, there's no point in doing this at all.
I agree with that.
I do too, but the state says.
All I'm saying is,
that
you got
entirely.
big corporations and I just can't see the CEO sitting around a desk and going, I think Woodland Park's gonna give us a loophole. Let's not remit to them. I can't see that.
There
I
are
know,
many
but you never
businesses
know.
that are not big boxes that remit sales tax to the city.
Right, and it
remit
wouldn't
to
be
the
fair if a small mom and pop store are remitting their tax while Walmart decides not to. And so
they
we
would
need,
restore
we
an
need the
equity
ability to have the equity to enforce that.
Mom and pop are not required to file this.
And it's
Not all mom and pops.
Anything
right.
under 3, right?
You're correct.
Yeah,
They have 3 stores.
well, some people do,
All right.
so.
Anyway, I was just asking for a friendly amendment. Are you with it or you're not? And I get where you guys are, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
go to the vote.
we have one company up here that has 2 stores and we don't know if they may open a third in the future, like
Right.
kind of thing. We don't know that. So. Thinking ahead, I know, I agree with you and I don't like any of this. But
But
it's,
they're already collecting it.
but they're already collecting it and it's the way that it's unfortunate, so.
Okay, so for clarification, the friendly amendment was not seconded.
I'll
So-
second it.
Okay,
Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry, because I just,
Mayor, I really appreciate that.
hold on, because I agree with some of what you said, but I can't agree with the
Violation.
violation.
You put
section.
in what you agree with and we'll go with that.
So,
Could.
Yeah.
This is getting way hard to follow. So
I know.
the maker of the motion does not agree with the amendment. How about the second? Yeah,
yeah, I don't want to make a friendly amendment because it just
Okay.
becomes too,
So
Convoluted.
the original motion is still on the floor with the staff recommendations. It was made by Councilmember Case, seconded by Councilmember Neal. Do we have any other friendly amendments? Okay, council, you may vote.
Come with holes, so you can see when you go to the bank.
thank you, Aaron.
thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
I'm behind, I'm sorry.
I just want Keep Woodland Park Beautiful to know that my vote does not reflect my desire not to keep the city clean.
Mine popped back.
Oh, it came up again.
It's my fault, I confused it.
Okay, I know it's one of you guys over there. It's not. me. Thank you. Council motion has passed 5-1 with Zulawaga voting no.
Okay. All right, thanks, you guys.
And then we have a nice little picture up on the screen for everybody.
Oh, because I'm the bag man.
Mr.
Courtesy
Bag.
the big guy in the back.
I think that should be his picture on his webpage for the city.
That's our chief's hidden skill is being a
Yes.
meme artist. Part-time. I think Grace might have had some help with that.
Nope, it was all the
Oh,
chief.
it's all the chief.
Yep.
All right, we're off to item number 9, public hearings. We're on 9A. It's approval of ordinance 1443. And our city attorney is the presenter.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is to extend your moratorium that's already in place for new short-term rental licenses. And the reason is you originally had it until June, given that that was your timeline before there was the petition that was sent along, and then your repealing of your previous ordinance. So this is just to extend your moratorium to keep the status quo while you're still considering the new legislation that will be first in planning commission and then in front of you. So we just figured a realistic time frame is to extend it. It's currently until June 24th. So we just, put a guess that was December 31st, end of the year. If there's any questions, you could let me know.
Council questions?
Comments?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, as you know, I've been against the moratoriums all along and I'm still against it. However, I did approach the mayor, and Mayor LaBarre, I'm going to ask you to kind of guide me because I think this is missing a complementary ordinance that should have been also brought forward, and it's a slice of 1431 that, it was stopped 1431. This moratorium, if it were to fail, would open a floodgates of theoretically people could come in, but we still haven't addressed the basic thing of getting rid of the bad ones. And I'm hoping that a part of this discussion is, can we get a future agenda item? I'd like to see the language extracted from 1431 that talks about the 2-strike rule and brought up as a separate ordinance, because we don't have, this STR thing can stretch on for a year or longer, depending on what goes on. But everybody consistently, Mary, you've come up and testified that the STR owners want regulations and get rid of them. The people that would like to ban STRs, they would like to see an ability to get rid of the bad ones. We don't have right now the ability to get rid of people that are violating. And with that simple piece, we could at least take a step in balancing property rights, both the STR owners' property rights and the neighbors of the STR owners, so that they, if there is a safety or a nuisance violation, we have something in our books to get rid of the bad. So can we add that as a top? I know it's, maybe I should wait until the council reports for this request.
That would be a good place for it, because what you'd want to do is just ask for consensus to bring it to the agenda, or you and another council member can bring that topic to an agenda item.
Okay,
So, because
well-
it's separate from what we're listening to now and
Agreed.
discussing, but that is something that you can bring either through consensus at council reports, or asking a council member to second you for an agenda item.
Can I do that now or do I wait till later?
Reports.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just think that's the fallacy with this particular 9A. This thing with a vote could open it up and we still haven't put a
Right.
mechanism to close it down.
Sure.
So I'll wait till reports to
Yeah, there's
see
still
if I
no
can get a second
regulations.
on getting the piece on the 2-strike rule put into place so we can start getting rid of the bad STRs that we know do exist out there. Thank you for my comments.
Sure. Council, anything further? If not,
Sure.
Robert, I always look at you because I always assume.
No, I'm fine with it is as it is.
Okay,
I've got some language issues with it, but it's totally inconsequential. So
okay.
if you want to hear public comment, I'm fine.
Do we have people signed up?
We do, and we'll start with Mary.
Quite contrary.
Good evening.
Because we're doing comments first.
I'm Mary Sikowski and I'm a Woodland Park resident. Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members for having me up here again. My comments are brief. I'd like to encourage our city council this evening to deny this extension and allow the moratorium to expire. Technically, the only thing the moratorium prevents is the lodging tax remittance on Muni Rose by not having a business ID number. Per tax code, which is the only place in our municipal code that STRs are addressed at all, any STR owner could mail a check to be in compliance. It does nothing to actually stop STRs from operating. The moratorium only presents an illusion of restriction, and that is not founded on anything in the municipal code. It will attempt to lawlessly block an owner's right to choose the method in which to rent their residential rental for over a year with the extension, and that's just too long. As a side note to this, as a realtor, I recently had an STR listed for sale in the community commercial zone. It's a short-term rental property, community commercial zone, and I had a lot of calls from potential buyers and other agents representing buyers who had concerns about possibly being able to continue STR operations because of the moratorium and possible future restrictions. I feel that because this moratorium is in place, it needlessly and negatively affected the sale. And we don't want to hurt our owners in that way. At least I should hope you wouldn't want to. As the moratorium is written and presented, it's a blanket block on all zones, even those that are not in question or consideration of future restrictions. Allowing this moratorium to continue as written is wrong and irresponsible, and I urge our city council to deny the extension. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I'd just like to comment on that to say there's actually one point in what you're saying that I agree with, and that is that if we do make the language to specify that the moratorium does not affect zones where they are lawfully already according to the table approved. So commercial zones, it should not be a problem at all. So if there's a way of tweaking the language to say that it doesn't affect those that are already authorized, because that's an authorized use. So you're right, you're right.
So that's a policy decision, and I say that because if you implement the regulations that's somewhat similar to what is, continuing to be proposed, a big chunk of that is the licensing and the regulation and the good neighbors and that kind of thing, and that would be on any zone. So that's why I'm just clarifying the policy distinction.
So what she's saying is because we don't have the regulations in place,
Right.
that if we lifted the moratorium for like the commercial zones, then they're not subject to any of the regulations we had discussed. So there is no 2 strikes, you're out. There's just the basic zoning.
The good neighbor,
the ordinance.
Good neighbor provision. Then again, I'm not arguing, I'm just pointing out the policy
Right.
decision that's in front of him.
Those are not part of the, I mean, right now STRs are authorized in commercial zones. They are, because of the way the table reads, they are an acceptable use in a commercial zone.
Right now, with 1431 not being there, sorry, I turned it on. So it's not just, I know what you're saying, but it's not just limited to commercial. Right now, you could build the same argument anywhere. The
You can't,
language
no, because it's not in
It
the
is
table
not
of uses.
listed
It's
as
STRs are in the table of use, not STRs, but what they are by definition is acceptable in commercial.
Oh, you're talking commercial lodging if you want to back it in.
That's what she's talking about. She's talking about a property which is in commercial, which is already being used as an STR in a
Yes,
commercial
that is
district, yeah. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not trying to go into the minutia of the other part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just note your current moratorium is in effect until June 24th.
I know, we don't have a way of getting rid of the bad.
No, we don't right now. Well, we actually do, Rusty. Councilmember Neal, sorry about that. We do from the standpoint of if they are violating parking laws, if they're violating nuisance laws, if they're.
The guests get the ticket, not the owner.
Right.
That's the
They
whole
don't
problem.
lose
You
their
can't
license.
Take the license away
license,
from the owner, and
All right.
that's what I want to see.
Well, we'll get there. We're not there yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, more public comment if there's.
We
more.
do. We have Mr. Sparnans.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. My name is Arnie Sparnans and I live in the Sunny Glen neighborhood. If you're all just voting yes, I'll just sit down. But if you're going to be changing things, then yeah, so if you want to just nod your heads and we're going forward, then yeah, I want to clarify too on this commercial zones. I think you can't say commercial. I think you have to look at, is it neighborhood commercial or is it community commercial? Or is it central business district? And I don't think lodging is consistently allowed in all of those. So I would do it, look at the table closely. But that's not why I'm here. I mean, the common sense obviously is the moratorium needs to be extended to allow time to develop and implement the appropriate legislation to regulate STRs, be it through the city council or through a citizens initiative. The thing what's on my mind right now, given the time frame that we're in, while the 403 fire was burning at our Park County border and the city of Woodland Park was in a stage 2 fire ban, we have out of town STR owner investors hosting guests and equipping them with the means to carelessly start a fire. Just to refresh everybody, and there's handouts in the back, stage 2 fire ban includes no charcoal grilling and no outdoor smoking. While this is common knowledge to Woodland Park residents, out of town STR hosts and their guests do not have the sensitivity to the extreme fire risk a stage 2 fire ban represents. And here's a picture. This is the STR property in our neighborhood owned by a realtor who lives in the Houston metro area. This STR is typically occupied by large groups. The owner recently confirmed they hosted 18 guests at one time. And they have a house rule for no smoking in the house. So they have 2 outdoor ashtrays, one in the front, one in the back, available for any smoking activity outside the property. They also list they provide a grill and charcoal, and remember, the outdoor smoking and charcoal grills are not allowed in stage 2 fire ban. So how large is the current danger to the community when well over 100 of our licensed STRs are out of town owners? Yes, that's over 60% of the STRs licensed. Yes, these are not bad people, but they are not Woodland Park residents that are part of the fabric of our community. And why would we risk issuing more STR licenses as we potentially enter a potentially severe fire season? So please listen to your concerned citizens and allow the time for the STR regulation process to be developed and implemented. Don't open the gates for more out-of-town investors to operate STRs in our city. If you fail to extend the STR moratorium, you're only compounding the problems for the city. So please do the right thing for Woodland Park and extend the STR moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Patricia Stinner, Ms. Stinner.
Good evening. I'm Patricia Stinner. I live in Woodland Park, the city of Woodland Park. I agree with everything Arnie said. Excuse me, Mr. Sparnans. I agree with most of what the other public comment said, but not all of it. My question to council is, prior to your vote tonight, regardless of which way you're going to vote, I would like for you to fully respond to the public's request that you discuss a plan for enforcing the issues that are known to be problematic and burdensome to the residents of Woodland Park. Councilman Neal, you just brought up a couple of things. And you've been asking these questions for the year and a half that I've been involved with this effort to consolidate and figure out whether or not to allow STRs, if so, what restrictions are reasonable. But I haven't heard council have a discussion about what you plan to do to enforce our codes. I haven't heard council come up with a plan to enforce the good neighbor policy. Let's talk about some of the major burdens, can we? Because each one of these have happened and are happening as I speak. We have guests feeding the wildlife. Do we have residents feeding wildlife? Oh, yes, we do. We have a law against it. We have 2 or 3 councilmen that voted against that law, and they don't want the enforcement, apparently, of feeding the wildlife, whether you're a resident or a guest. We don't even have a control of that yet. How about guests staying at lodges in my neighborhood who are trespassing onto private property? How are you going to enforce that? And what's your penalty going to be? How about in guests who are enjoying campfires and bonfires, which have happened at local STRs, and you're all aware of that? No citations, no enforcement. How about STR operators selling alcohol from their STRs to guests staying at the STR? Yes, that's happened. I haven't heard council even discuss that. No citations. So I would really appreciate transparency and an open conversation between you before you vote tonight, that if you are not going to extend the moratorium, I would like to know how you are going to effectively and fairly enforce the good neighbor policy in our existing ordinances, which, by the way, STRs are not allowed nor permittable in our residential zones. So if you are not going to extend this moratorium, I fully expect council to start defending our ordinances that exist. Thank you.
Anyone else?
That's it.
No hands on Zoom?
No hands on Zoom.
All right. Council.
No, I'm can't wait to get to my council report where I can pick up the conversation, because that's exactly where I want to go on some of the talks.
Okay. So any further comments or questions, or can we make a motion?
I'd be happy to make a motion, but I do want to address Mrs. Stinner's questions. And so there's 2 things here. One is a moratorium. And I think city staff has told us the importance of us extending it just logistically, how it's important for us to get that moratorium extended to allow ourselves to either come to a decision or allow the citizens to rise up and make a decision for us. As far as the enforcement part of it, there was parts of 1431 which were useful, and parts of it that were clearly not. We did request from city staff what would it be like to get reports from the police on STRs. And maybe Michael can let us know the problem with that. And I think it's discretionary. There's a few things with that, but maybe we can get an understanding of what's the problem actually enforcing that right now, the way things are. And then, well, so let's start there. If I can put you on the spot.
Sure. So I might ask the chief for his thoughts as well. So your question is, why are we not enforcing?
Well, let me.
How it's being enforced. Yes, how it's being enforced, but we had requested as one of the marker points for the police to report when there was noise disturbances or the bonfire issue and things like that. And
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished, Robert.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, does that answer? Does that?
I would ask that this not be limited to short-term rentals. I would like for the enforcement issues that have been asked with regards to the city, whether it's a property owner, whether it's a long-term rental, whatever status that the residence or business may be. That's how I would like this to be looked at. Now, we can qualify what kind of residence it is, certainly, but I would just want to reiterate that it's not just short-term rental occupants that are violating the codes and the laws of the city.
Well, I think just briefly, the issue with the police gathering the data is that was part of the ordinance, and the ordinance gives us the authority to then direct staff to do something. And without that, or without a resolution, they can't just willy-nilly.
Well, what I recall is that we were asked to gather that information along with some additional supplemental information about who, what types of short-term rentals there are they owner occupied or not? And then, I don't know, maybe about a dozen or so other attributes that we're looking at that we are currently collecting on a survey that was issued starting last week. I think we were collecting the data for police stats regarding short-term rentals. We had provided some higher level data some months ago.
Yeah, Michael, the problem with it, because I worked with the chief to get I was the one that made the request to the chief. With the data we had, we could not pull from history the low level details of owner occupied, not owner out of town. All we could break it apart was STRs versus non-STRs. So non-STRs would be LTRs and permanent residents that are full timers. So all we could do is differentiate the two. And that data we have. And even when it's normalized, I mean, the data is out there. Anybody can pull it. The STRs, even when you normalizing, meaning for every incident that an STR did a violation, you had to multiply it times 21.602 to get it to the ratio to equal the number of non-STRs, which we did, or I did, and I passed it out to the council. And in all categories except two, the STRs were not the problem in Woodland Park. But we could not tell whether they, were an LTR or anything else. And that's what David was trying to get the police report to get that detail that you're now talking about, where we have the fidelity to really zero in on the problem. But just STRs versus non-STRs, that data split is pretty crystal clear. They're not a problem compared to non-STRs. And you all have that data.
So we, like I said, we are trying to get that additional data so we
Yeah.
can project that onto those same statistics, I think is what you're getting at. Is there anything else over and above that we're doing? That's
Currently,
different?
no. When the ordinance was in its infancy, when we first pulled those data points, it was strictly done off of address and address only as provided on the list that the city had. There was no sort of metric as to how long a particular address had been an STR, whether it was, whether it wasn't. It was strictly generated by address.
It wasn't really pure enough to draw any concrete conclusions. Looks one way, but we didn't want to go with it.
Right. And so even with 1431 being rescinded, we did get clear direction from the council to begin collecting that supplemental data, which we are doing. We're still doing the housing needs assessment. So that is going forward, so we can have additional things. We do enforce the laws on the books regardless of what kind of house they're in.
Yeah, for clarity, that's the only way our data is kept. Our data points are strictly by address or geographic location. There's no other flags. I hope that helps.
Michael, since we're talking about the moratorium, I guess, can we ask, is there a wait list?
So we had chatted with Aaron about this earlier this week. As I understand, since January, we've had a single phone inquiry. We are not keeping an active waiting list, but it's been very, very quiet.
Thank you. Council, anything further, or are we ready to make a motion?
I'd just like to make one comment. Councilmember Zuluaga shared an article with the council recently that I found to be very interesting and very enlightening, with a lot of market analysis from a level that's greater than Woodland Park, even greater than Colorado. And really is seeing a drop off and those indicators of a market that's maturing and even declining. The demand is declining. And so thank you for that article. I found it to be quite interesting, and it really supported a lot of what I find, or what I have concluded looking at things. And even the percentage of those STRs that we have licensed, not to say that they're STR licenses, those folks that hold a business license. And the fact that their revenue that they're reporting for sales and lodging tax, they're not occupied at even 50% over time. And so the indicators in the market really are leaning towards saturation, leaning toward a decline. And the demand, I think the demand was really, really high because of the pandemic, because people couldn't stay in hotels, they couldn't stay in motels. So it was kind of a solution that reacted to the pandemic, I believe. And so I think as we are getting further and further away from that, and I think some of those abnormalities that happened during the pandemic are starting to normalize a little more and getting back to a little bit more of what we were like before. So I don't know, it's just an observation I've had. I'm not saying that that's the truth. It's just some reading that I've done and some looking at the market in general. So I think that that's good news from a community perspective. So I just wanted to share that, and thank you for that article.
Okay, so I have one last question, and it's most Nina. As far as extending the moratorium, it's probably the least likely for us to get sued, or no? I mean, we talked in the past where we know we have a problem, we tried to fix it, but we haven't fixed it. We don't have legislation in place. So by not extending the moratorium, are we opening ourselves up to other law issues? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's many reasons to extend it while you're still considering. Like if you were saying we don't want to do anything anymore, then I would say it's different. But there just like inconsistency of enforcement, how the code will be. Yeah, we'll go back to the way we were doing the code before, which I'm not going to comment whether or not it was proper, because that would not be responsible of me to say it in a public forum. But it's good to keep the status quo while you decide what you want to do, versus having this gap, especially for staff, but also for the public, these few months that in between, implementing a new regulations and going back to what now you had almost more than a year ago.
So then are you ready for a motion?
I'm ready.
I'm ready to give it. I move that we approve the ordinance 1433 series 2023, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Woodland Park, Colorado, extending a temporary moratorium on the submission, acceptance, processing, and approval of applications for all short-term rental licenses until December 31st, 2023.
I'll second.
Council, you may vote. Thank you, Council. Motion is passed 5-1 with Councilmember Neal voting no.
Okay, We are off to,
Mayor, I just need to
Oh.
bring a time check to you.
oh. You guys need a break?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make it 10 because I make it 5 and then everybody just comes back in 10 anyways. I know, then they'll come back.
You need them.
I'm full asleep.
Michael, he's looking for peanut butter cups.
Just ask. Just ask.
He let the staff have some.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started again. We're back at 9B. That's ordinance 1444. This is quasi judicial. So stay on topic, please. And our presenters are, I'm sorry, CJ Gates, Senior Planner. Hi, CJ.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Again, I'm CJ Gates, representing the City of Woodland Park Planning Department. The application before you tonight is a request by Verizon Wireless for approval of a special use permit for a 60-foot concealed antenna facility. The facility in question is proposed to be constructed within the western portion of the Woodland Aquatic Center located at 111 North Baldwin. Lot 1, Woodland Park Aquatic Center, is a 2.1 acre lot that was previously subdivided from the 42 acre tract of land lying east of Baldwin Avenue and owned by the school district. The construction of the Woodland Aquatic Center includes a water slide as seen on the current slide on the left-hand side, with the total building height of 33.5 feet, which was achieved through a height variance process. The Aquatic Center is a total of 24,785 square feet and contains 2 pools, locker rooms, changing cabanas, a lobby, and parking spot with 34 spaces. This current application is being processed as a special use permit due to the fact that the facility is over 60 feet, or the total height is 60 feet. The proposed facility will be fully concealed within a structure designed to complement the existing building architecture. The subject property is zoned public / semi-public land, as seen on the left-hand side of the slide. The site is bordered by Baldwin Street to the west, Woodland Park High School to the east and north, and Gateway Elementary to the south. To the west of the subject property across from Baldwin are parcel zone community commercial, where commercial businesses are existing. Woodland Park High School and Gateway Elementary exist on the same parcel and are zoned public / semi-public as well. The proposed communication facility will be located in the western portion of the subject property bordering North Baldwin Street. On the current slide is the original proposed site plan, which is also attached within the staff report. The application proposed a 5-foot wide utility easement for power to run from the proposed facility to the existing electrical transformer on the northwest side of the site. The applicant is also proposing a 12-foot wide access and utility easement running north and south, connecting to the proposed 5-foot wide easement for fiber that will connect to a proposed 2x3 fiber handhold. The lease area that the applicant is proposing is a total of 625 feet. This current slide is the applicant's revised site plan. This document is contained within the applicant response packet that was attached within the staff report. The revised site plan was a direct result from staff's comments on the original proposal. Where the original and revised site plans differ the most is the location of the proposed fiber and power lines. Currently, a utility easement exists on the west side of the property, and per staff's recommendation, the applicant placed the power and fiber lines within it. The revised proposed site plan is what is desirable for staff. The left-hand side of the slide is the applicant's elevation of the proposed facility, which shows its proximity to the existing Woodland, the existing Aquatic Center building. As depicted in the elevation, the existing building is 33.5 feet tall, and the proposed tower is 60 feet in height. The proposed facility will be 26.5 feet higher than the highest point of the existing building. On the right-hand side of the slide is a color rendering of the proposed tower. Staff asked the applicant to submit this information within the applicant response packet. The rendering shows how the applicant is attempting to match the existing color and architecture of the existing site. As you will see later on, staff will work with the applicant to ensure the proposed architecture matches what is currently existing. Staff analyzed municipal code section 18.61.040 in accordance with this application. A, the proposed facility should have a benefit to the city. B, the proposed will not endanger public health. C, the proposed facility will not affect the value of properties. And D, the proposed development will have harmony in the area. The proposed facility complies with these 4 criteria. The proposed development must conform to the city's comprehensive master plan. The proposed development conform to the provisions, standards, and requirements of all city regulations. And the proposed will be designated to accommodate traffic impacts. Items E and G on the current slide comply, while item F may comply. There was currently one concern regarding the location of the proposed easements. The proposed facility may comply if the applicant is willing to comply with municipal code and use existing established utility easements that are available. As you previously saw on the revised site plan slide, the applicant submitted a revised site plan according to staff's comments, and the revised site plan is what is desirable and approved by staff. The proposal should be designated and constructed appropriately. The proposal should be maintained with adequate water supply. The facility should not increase public danger, and the development is required to meet all architectural design requirements. Items H through J comply on this slide, while item K may comply. The proposed facility will be painted to match the existing structure, and all telecommunication materials will be enclosed within the proposed structure. Staff will be requesting additional design modifications so the structure will better harmonize with the existing building. Applications were referred to city departments and external review agencies listed on the slide. Staff has received no public comments on the proposed facility. Planning Commission held a public meeting on March 9th of 2023. After consideration, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of a special use permit subject to the following conditions. An updated site plan resolving all issues identified on the red line plans must be approved by the city before any zoning development permit will be issued. 2, an agreement for the use of the city property must be finalized and signed by all parties prior to issuance of any ZDP will be issued. 3, the applicant must secure necessary easements to finalize the location and ensure that all power and telecommunication lines are run underground. And lastly, coordinate with staff to modify the tower design to better harmonize with the existing WAC building. Staff's recommendation is that City Council move to approve ordinance 1444 series 2023 based on the findings contained in the staff report and presented at public hearings. An ordinance granting a special use permit with a site plan review for the purpose of Verizon to construct and utilize a concealed antenna communication facility in the public/semi-public zone. Thank you, Mayor and council members. That concludes my presentation, and the applicant is also here tonight. If you guys have any questions.
Thank you. Council, I know Councilmember Zulawaga has some things he would like to say, so I'm going to check in with the rest of you first.
I'm just gonna ask a quick, can we make it look like a clock tower?
That works.
We could definitely talk to the applicant about that when they come up.
Yeah, okay.
I also had a call from someone here in town that said, what a great idea and what a great opportunity to put a clock tower.
A clock tower, yeah, put a clock on it. Serves 2 purposes, but that's all I have for now.
Okay.
Not to say that I made any decisions or anything. I know this is quasi judicial. It was just a recommendation to make it pretty and to seize the opportunity.
Well, time notwithstanding, I think that's that's. I have, firstly, my first question is to probably the city. I didn't see anywhere in the Planning Commission's study of this, of the health and the effect on our children. There is, and I will go through it here in a minute, but there is such a large body of findings across the world, not just the United States, of the concern of the radiation from these cell towers at schools. Across the board, schools are banning having these within 1,500 meters. That's a huge, I walked it. That's going to take you down to Skyline to the south and up to Full View to the north. And then you can go out east and west. I didn't do either of those. This is a huge concern to our city. So my first question is, last time it's not this specific feature, but the idea of the placement of it, when I asked the city engineer about what the location, how you define where these things go, I was told, oh, it's a complicated process. Very few engineers know how to do it. It's very scientific how you go about figuring where these towers go. Well, very scientifically, you don't put it in the middle of a school. And, you know, we've got them, we see them as cute little trees along the highway. I'm very concerned about the placement of this and the safety of our children. And I don't know whether I should give you some details here. I have a lot of findings. The problem with the quasi judicial is we don't have the opportunity of doing anything about this until a week before this meeting, and we get it in our packet. I have a problem with that process because it rushes us to come to a presentation of the findings. I have more than a presentation of findings that the mayor has asked that we give that to her in advance or give that to our colleagues in advance. So I just want to touch on a few points. And I don't know how the process would go, perhaps Nina. I would like the opportunity to present this body of information before we make a decision of this. So I'd like to know what would happen if we were to move this on the calendar 2 weeks or to our next session, so that my colleagues can have an opportunity to see, and our community has an opportunity to see how dangerous these are on school property. And just to give you just a couple of little highlights. Hundreds of scientists are urging that our exposure to cell towers, cell phones, and other wireless radiation emissions be reduced due to the scientific evidence showing effects of legally allowable levels. These scientists have written letters to schools and policymakers urging that children and the public be protected. Researchers have studied cell towers and cell tower radiation for decades. Effects from RFR documents in scientific research include increased cancer risk, cellular stress, headaches, sleep issues, genetic damage, changes to the reproductive system, memory deficits, and impacts to the nervous system. Children are most vulnerable to cell phone radiation as they absorb it deeper into their brains and bodies. The child's developing brain and organ systems are more sensitive to environmental stressors, including cell tower radiation. Even if the radiation absorption were the same as in adults, the effects in children can be far more serious. It goes on to talk about studies in European Parliament researched that they concluded that commonly used RFR frequencies 450 to 6,000 MHz are probably carcinogenic for humans and clearly affect male fertility with possible adverse effects on the development of embryos, fetuses, and newborns. I have much more to talk here. I just want to alert my colleagues. This is not just putting it up and having a clock on top of it. This is a serious placement right in the middle of the hub of our children. I'm concerned that we didn't evaluate this as a planning commission. It wasn't even a topic that was brought up. And if you look at the research which I will send to you across the country, across the world, they're saying these towers should not be within 1,500 meters of your kids. So that's my opening comment. And perhaps our folks can discuss that, because I know I have actual findings in your comments about that, not you personally, but from your firm about your findings on this. So if you want to comment and where you've withdrawn them in other
Public-
communities,
Oh,
that's.
sorry. Just to, if I can make a recommendation of as the public hearing process, if we could let the applicant speak and then get back to.
I think that's what Robert meant.
Oh, okay.
That's what I just said.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'll, yeah.
If they want to, they may not want to address that.
No, but in our public hearing process is now that the applicant presents to you their presentation, you know.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present. CJ did a great job of laying out Verizon's proposal. We are looking at a 60-foot concealed antenna structure at the front of the aquatic center. It will fully house ground equipment at the base as well as antennas at the top. When we first walked the site with Ben Schmidt, there was discussion of leaving the space immediately beneath the antennas open for either a clock or for perhaps signage for the aquatic center. And that's something that we're willing to do. We hadn't received an official comment on what they'd like to see, so we're open to that design change. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have regarding the design. Oh, Kelly Harrison, I apologize.
Council, do you have questions or comments? Well, I guess I'll ask, I'm not sure particularly why it was that exact location that was chosen. So I don't know if you could just let us know why it was that particular location.
Yeah, so we looked at a few locations. The RF engineer identifies where coverage is needed most, which is Central Woodland Park. In speaking with the city on some of the city properties that were perhaps available, we had the water tanks up for consideration. Since those are so peripheral to the city and not central, they weren't a great option. We did look at, there were 2 storage facilities, one directly across from the aquatic center. That property owner was not willing to lease space for a site in that location. So we ultimately decided on the aquatic center, and that works well for our engineer in terms of, providing service to Central Woodland Park.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Zulawaga, do you?
Yeah, I'd like you to address my concerns and the studies that show that the damage to children and the number of cities which have banned them being anywhere near schools in proximity thereof.
Yep, and I have Melissa Reagan here too.
Good evening, council members. Melissa Reagan. I'm an attorney at Sherman and Howard. We represent Verizon Wireless. And with respect to the RF admissions, they're actually the FCC, Federal Telecommunications Act, has a statutory provision on this. Local jurisdictions actually cannot deny applications on the basis of RF admissions or health standards as set by the FCC, so long as the applicants and the wireless providers comply with the RF admissions that the FCC regulations put in place. And wireless providers, they cannot and will not be issued their FCC license for facilities unless they meet those RF admissions regulations. So in this instance, and in all instances, actually, in order for Verizon Wireless to deploy its facilities, it has to meet those regulations in order to receive the license. And specifically, if the council was to make a decision on the basis of our RF admissions and deny the application, that would actually violate the Federal Telecommunications Act.
It's actually not true. That's your threat, but I have multiple attorneys saying that's not the case. And I'll just give you a few instances where you were. I mean, there's quite a few. Ripon, California, Tarrington, New York, Prince George County, Maryland. Palo Alto, California Unified School District Resolution number 2018-19-19 supports the city's 1,500-foot setback and opposes cell towers on or close proximity to schools to ensure individuals, especially children, are protected from the potential negative effects associated with radiation exposure. Winland, Williamsville, Oregon, Vancouver School Board, Encinitas, California, Calabasas, California. Shall I go on?
And to be very clear, I was just merely stating what the statute and the regulations provide. And this is what I would say is that in that instance, in the setback requirement you cited, I would identify for the city council that this is where not having a wireless ordinance in place where you can impose setbacks to have 1,500 feet setbacks from schools and the like, that makes it difficult. And in this instance, there's nothing in the city's code that requires wireless facilities to be set back 1,500 feet from residential or school districts or the like. So just merely we've set forth our application pursuant to the code. We've met all the code requirements as the city planner has gone through, and I was just providing the FCC rules and statutes and regulations that apply to the application that's pending before the city council.
Nina.
Yes, that's correct. We don't have those that in our code right now. I'll read the part of the Federal Telecommunications Act that's being referenced. No state or local government or instrumentality may regulate the placement, construction, and modification of personal wireless service facilities on the basis of environmental effects of radio frequency emissions to the extent that such facilities comply with commission's regulations concerning such emissions. I do also agree. I mean, this is a discussion for after the hearing that we, would be good to have. We've written them for other communities, have that telecommunications section in our code, which would allow for certain setbacks and such.
Here's your company's quote. Wireless companies warn their shareholders of potential future risk related to radio frequency radiation exposure, but they do not warn the people exposed to emission from their cell antenna infrastructure. Corporate investors warning by companies such as AT&T, Verizon, Vodafone, and Crown Castle are contained in their annual reports filed in Form 10-K, and they inform shareholders that companies may incur significant financial losses related to electromagnetic fields. Verizon states, quote, "We are subject to a significant amount of litigation, which could require us to pay significant damages or settlements. In addition, our wireless business also faces personal injury and wrongful death lawsuits related to alleged health effects of wireless phones or radio frequency transmitters. We may incur significant expenses in defending these lawsuits. In addition, we may be required to pay significant amounts of settlements." I would just hate for the city of Woodland Park to get included in a lawsuit that you're part of with regards the effects on the health of our children.
Mayor?
Yes.
Question. This question is for Michael and Nina. Has the city staff tried to look up some of the medical research that Councilmember Zuluaga is referring to see, in your legal opinion or in your staff's opinion, is it credible? And Robert, here's my point. During the COVID, the mask, you condemned every major medical research facility across the world. I mean, you and I had that argument, NIH, WHO, it's all a conspiracy. And now you're citing all these medical authorities as authoritative. So different situation a little bit, but at one point you couldn't trust anything they're saying. Now you absolutely trust them. So now, and that's your position. What has the city staff done in terms of researching? Do we have a medical concern?
The city staff has not researched that information to the best of my knowledge. And we are not, we can't speak to the credibility of what Councilmember Zuluaga is saying. We're not equipped to do that.
Councilmember Neal, just to answer your question, I did send some of these findings to our attorney. He was not coming today. And as I said, the limitation we have is we are not allowed to enter into all this until a week before the time it comes before us as a quasi judicial. So it puts us in a squeeze crunch to be able to get the information, digest their application, digest the information we have on it, and create a presentation. And as I said to the mayor, I have lots of information. I'm happy to send it to all of you here. I would like us to have the opportunity to consider this, because I think it's a serious consideration for our children. I mean, like it's a big deal. And it's not, and notwithstanding whether you find me credible or not, you can evaluate that from the information I sent to you. There's organizations in Colorado that also promote the safe development of technology. And that's part of what this is about, is how do we safely deploy, safely develop this? And as I brought before the council a couple of weeks ago, the FCC has 5 members who are unelected officials on a board who have spent the time to work in conjunction with the cell phone providers. And there's a very strong lobbying. I could go into some of that here. You'll get it when I send it to you, if you give me the benefit. You will see that this is the mask is, you have to follow what we say. In fact, I have a chart that talks about what she will refer to as the shot clock. So you either approve our application or you have a shot clock, and it's supported by the FCC and all this stuff. Look at the shot clock. Fortunately, I can't show it to you. 2009, the FCC gave 150 days for an application process, right? In 2018, it was dropped to 90 days. In 2021, it's 60 days. You have less and less time to even investigate this and work on it. Lots of communities have woken up and they've said, oh my God, something's not right here. We need to have a greater say. So there's plenty of evidence. There's a body of attorneys who have already weighed in on this to say, just because they threaten you to say that if you don't approve it, you face a shot clock and then it goes ahead and it gets approved anyway stuff. That's not true. There's way more we can do in the process. So the placement, it's not that we're saying that they can't have a tower. It's where they have the tower. And that's the concern I have. Where it is a danger to our community. Find a place where it is, most communities say it needs to be at least 500 feet away from residents as well. So we have a pretty big arc, and it doesn't have to be in the middle of our school.
In your research, that you've done the research, so I'm kind of relying on your research.
And I'll provide this.
The towers emit a frequency at a certain power level. Did your materials compare it to the same frequencies are coming out of our 5G phones at a power level? Are those towers putting it out at a greater level when the tower to a person, 100 feet away, 500 feet, is it greater than the power that's coming out of my cell phone to 3 inches from my brain? Do you know?
You're talking 2 different things, Rusty.
Well, not really.
Councilmember Neal, this tower, if I understand, this tower is a 4G tower. Is that correct?
5G.
5G.
It's a 5G tower? Well,
4 and 5.
it doesn't make sense.
It's 4 and 5, then it's going to carry both protocols. It'd be foolish not to put one capable of 5G and be backwards compatible with 4G. Okay, so my phone, and just about every phone walking around, a new one, is 4G and 5G capable. So it's transmitting at a certain power level, the 4G protocol or the 5G, whichever tower it's hitting. Does your study say that those towers are more powerful than all those students walking around with all those cell phones?
If you're asking me to give you the science on this, Rusty, I've got a lot of findings that you can work through as a electronics
I'm
geek.
just asking,
You can.
did they have any comparison of those towers, because they're saying they're
Yeah.
dangerous, did they ever do a
I just,
a relative to the cell phones that all those students are walking around with every day?
there's a concern with both. But this is about the tower. This quasi judicial hearing is about the tower. My focus is on the tower and the impact of the tower on the genetics, on the bodies, on the brains, on the testes of the male, most specifically. They're very specific and they're very dangerous. And the findings are there, and I'm happy to provide that to each of my colleagues. And I would move that we defer decision on this until such time as you have the opportunity to evaluate this. The council has an opportunity to weigh in on it in terms of where we are with the shot clock. And I think it's in the best interest of our children to evaluate this. And I would like to see some type of a counter proposal about where else in other words, there's other areas that it will still work to have a cell tower in Woodland Park. And the question is, where does that have least impact to our kids?
With your timeline, is 2 weeks going to kill your timeline? If the council wanted to take 2 weeks and look at the data that Councilmember Zuluaga might provide?
Yeah, and just to clarify on the shot clock, actually, there's still a 150-day shot clock for this facility for new macro facilities. The 60-day shot clock he was referring to only applies to small cell facilities. So I think the shot clock deadline for this expires May 6th, so we could do an additional 2 weeks, maybe, yes.
Yeah, because our council meets in two more weeks where we would have time to look at the literature. Robert is correct. We can't look at anything until this public comment. So we haven't been able to really talk about it, bore into it, or even be exposed to too much. This is our public hearing, but now we've got some of this information. If we wanted to take 2 weeks to look at something that Mr. Zuluaga wants to distribute to us, is it going to destroy your timelines?
But can I just
I'm asking
restate
Grace.
the Federal Telecommunications Act? No state or local government shall regulate the placement, construction, or modification of personal wireless service facilities on the basis of environmental effects of radio frequency emissions. So I just want to restate that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask for one, that clarification, and two, first of all, I appreciate what your concern is. I'm not discounting that, but the way I understand quasi judicial is that we don't do outside research. Is that we base our decision on the evidence presented in front of us. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this whole time I could have been Googling stuff about everything I've made a decision on, but I just want to be clear, is this type of outside information that is being provided allowed because this is quasi judicial?
It should be, everything on your decision should be based on what's in the record. So that would be anything in the staff report, the public, at least the council members is bringing it for everyone to hear, but everything for quasi judicial should be based on the code factors, applying those code factors, and then everything that's on the record in the public within the public hearing.
Okay, so it's okay that Robert introduced this information, but it's contradictory to what the law is telling us we are allowed to make a decision on.
Are you referring to the Federal Telecommunications Act?
Yes.
If the argument is based on the environmental effects, I'm just reading, I understand.
Because that's what I'm hearing.
You're hearing the safety of our kids.
The concern of the environmental effects on our children.
Mhm.
But this is telling us.
Not the environment of our children, on the tower on our children.
No, I know, but do you understand what our attorney is reading to us and what that means?
I'm just saying that I have a lot of information that shows me that there are other cities around the country who are acting on this and doing so quite lawfully.
Right, but
So I'm not an attorney. I totally recognize that she looks at it from a different perspective. I'm presenting this. This is what comes before my eyes as I prepare for this quasi judicial. I haven't spoken to anyone else about it. And I'm like, Hello.
But the
I don't
others-
disagree that those, what, some of those, regulations that you cited that we could have in our code, but we don't have in our code right now.
Right, we
And
don't.
we have an
So we-
application before us.
So we could,
Right.
direct that
That's the
staff
problem.
implement telecommunications. I mean, like I said, all my other cities do have that in their codes. But, so that we could address your concerns. And that way they're there for the, for the next one time,
We,
It's just everybody.
so are you going to tell our kids who come down with cancer and our sterile boys that, oh, I'm so sorry. We just had to approve this because, and it's right in the dead center of our high school and our primary school. I'm sorry. I took it up to uphold the health and the welfare of our kids and not to just get lost in a bunch of FCC regulations by unelected officials.
No, I'm
You
not.
know,
I'm not
I
arguing
might
with
be
you.
wrong. I
I'm not
mean,
arguing with Councilmember Zulaga. I'm not arguing with you at all. All I'm saying is that you're not incorrect when you cite all those different cities and towns for having those regulations in place, and we could do the same for the future. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to argue with you from a policy standpoint. I understand your concerns.
The point is they had those policies in place prior to the application. being
you can't
brought.
say that. I haven't, you
So-
will drill down to that research and make that conclusion. So no, I'm just simply requesting that we table this for 2 weeks while I send you all this information. You guys do your own research on it and we come back with, and also I'd like to request that the applicant present to us where else they have looked at putting this tower. So we have some sense of what's the possibilities here.
Yeah, and just to play the devil's advocate here too, is if a child got cancer from swimming in the pool, we wouldn't know whether it was from the tower or the cell phone they carry or the tablet they play on or the water they drink or
The radon in their home.
the radon in their home. I mean,
There's a million.
I'm not disagreeing with your environmental concern about this, but I'm just saying this is a slippery slope in proof, in evidence for us. So, but it's up to the council. We need public comment first, and then we'll let the council, you can see if you can get a consensus to table. So, Suzanne, do we have anyone signed up for this?
Do we have Genevieve Brandt?
And also to the applicants, did you guys, did you feel like you've presented your, are you guys finished?
Address any further questions after.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't want to cut you off from the podium and.
Good evening to the council. I'm Genevieve Brandt and I live in Woodland Park. I am opposed to the Verizon tower placement at the Aquatic Center. I personally use the Aquatic Center every week and I don't want it right there. And I don't want it next to the Gateway and the high school. There are many studies out there that have proven with a matter of weeks or months of the tower being placed, people come out with all kinds of health issues. Children's skulls are much thinner than adult skulls, and they're more affected by electromagnetic frequency. A recent study in Singapore shows that the rate of brain cancer in children has raised dramatically due to the use of handheld electronics, towers, the earbuds that are not wired. There's a way to get around this. Wear your wires in your earbuds. Don't just have the wireless. That's the problem. There are healthier ways to do what you want to do and have the speed and technology that you want. This tower should be placed up on the hillside, away from our families, our children. There's land around Walmart, maybe. I don't know, wherever they've looked. There are other places that this could be placed, but not in between two schools. The FCC has not done a safety study on radio frequency radiation since 1996. That's a long time. In 2021, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit issued a mandate for the FCC to consider non-cancer evidence of adverse health effects related to wireless technology. They have not complied with the court's order. They were mandated to do this. And now there's further legal action to compel them to do so. If it's so safe, what are they afraid of? Why don't they do these studies? Since 1996, my goodness, our technology has changed by leaps and bounds. There are numerous health issues, including headaches, confusion, fatigue, stroke, cancer, and infertility. They have been reported and documented from frequencies of 2, 3, 4, and 5G. I'm really happy that you are burying the lines underground. That is a big plus. But then it just needs to be in a different location. I was going to quote the same report that Councilman Zulaga reported on the Verizon actual annual report, stating that how much money they were going to lose from the lawsuits. And another issue you might personally want to consider is that of insurance. There have been multiple lawsuits filed by residents against city council members of various cities for neglecting to protect the health and safety of the residents from harm from radio frequencies. These lawsuits could bankrupt a city or city council members. This is happening, but the carriers do not have RF insurance. All applicants must be required to carry radio frequency insurance and secondary insurance in order to protect the city from similar lawsuits. This insurance must cover EMF, physical, psychological, and or emotional damage unless the city is an additional insured under the policy. I would strongly recommend that you do that. There is much more to be cited that I didn't have the time to just go into and drill down to, as I think Councilman Zulaga has. But I urge you to do your research and really look into this. You wouldn't want one of your children to come down with brain cancer or some other difficulty because they go to a school where there's a tower right there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any further?
No one else.
Okay. All right, if you guys would. Yep. Would you guys like to come back up and rebut anything or have anything further you'd like to address? Okay, council.
So I make a motion that we defer this for till the next council session to give you an opportunity to do some of your own research, and I will give you a PDF through Suzanne of some of the links of exactly what I'm talking about.
Nina, would you address the continuance of a public hearing for the council? The direction.
Well, it's. What is it based on? If it's based on, considering, documentation that's outside the public hearing that also goes to the environmental effects, when the Federal Telecommunications Act is clear on that, then it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be advisable.
It's the safety of our children. You keep talking about environment. I'm talking about the safety of the health of our children. Does it say in the law that you can't address the safety of your children?
No, I read it.
No, I know. I just, when you interpret that,
I'm not a telecommunications expert, but I just see that if it's on the basis of environmental effects.
okay.
I could see.
We'll
it's
give you a
defined.
chance to research that. You and Jeff a chance to research that when we bring it back.
She's reading environmental effects as the health. It environmentally affects us. And that's what your argument is that it environmentally affects the health of the children.
Well, I know that it has effects on trees, but I'm not contending
No.
there's an environmental effect. I'm
It's
contending.
children
it's
are
the health
part
of
of
our
our
children.
environment that we live in. They don't mean the grass and the trees. They mean the living environment. That's what that word term means.
I've made a motion.
I'll second.
Can you read the motion again, please? I want to understand it completely.
I motion that we defer the ruling on this quasi judicial matter for till our next council meeting. And in the meantime, I will provide council with research, and they can do their own and give the opportunity for this to have more of a vetting than just accepting it.
And to a question, you said that the 2 weeks was not gonna affect your program or any legalities, correct? The 2-week delay for us to make a decision?
May 6th, you said.
And just so you know, the next council meeting is April 20th.
Gives us 2 days.
Yeah, well,
2 weeks.
Yeah.
from now.
Ms. Harrison's gonna be out of town, but we'll figure it out and make it work. The shot clock is May 6th. I don't believe you have any appeals procedures in your, I think if it was a denial, there's no internal appeal.
Not internal.
Okay, it would just be to court, so
To
that
court.
doesn't impact, so it's May 6th is the deadline for everything to be completed, a final decision from city council.
Does that include the publication of the ordinance and the effective date of the ordinance?
We have a
It's 7 days and the next meetings is when, April
Will be May
20th.
Oh.
So it would be April 20th, and then if it was approved, it would be effective 7 days after April 20th. So meets that criteria.
Thank you.
Just a process question, if Councilmember Zulaga can amend the motion to continue the public hearing to that April 20th date.
So moved.
Frank.
I still second.
So council, you may vote.
This just reads the. we're approving the ordinance.
No, it says table ordinance number 1444. Yep,
Continue.
yeah.
Continue, not table. Continue the public
Sorry,
hearing.
sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, council. Motion has passed unanimously, not unanimously, excuse me, 4-2. With LeBaron case voting no to continue it to the April 20th council meeting.
Thank you, council.
Excuse me, Nina, is there any direction on what they can do now as far as reading literature from one another and all of that?
Yeah, that's makes me very
Thanks for
nervous in a
asking.
quasi judicial.
You may want to give some guidance,
proceeding.
maybe.
Should it go in the packet?
Most definitely.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
Rather than you sending the email, that's why I'm
Well, send it to
asking.
you anyway, right?
Yeah,
So
so I'm asking for guidance as to what to do with that once he sends it to me.
Yeah, the packet, and then make sure the packet is given to Verizon and the public.
And Nina, what guidance
I don't
can you
wanna
give
get in
us?
trouble.
Are we allowed to go out to like the American Cancer Society and read their literature and on our own, or do we have to, whatever I read, I have to provide to Suzanne to distribute to the council? I mean, how does this work?
Yeah, that's why, that is, yeah, it's during quasi judicial, it's tough just to sort of make a decision based on everything that's on the record, that is submitted. If something's in the public forum, you know, we can't control that necessarily, but, again, I really caution your decision to be made on the public hearing and also the code factors as to a special use permit. Which are established in the staff report.
I mean, Robert, this is quasi judicial, and yet you've gathered all kinds of information outside of the public domain already. So
I have the responsibility
I
of
know.
due diligence with what I receive in my packet. I didn't talk to anyone else. I just studied that. So
Are we allowed then?
Of course.
Lena? Right, I mean, based on what Robert is saying, he had the packet, the topic, so he started doing his own due diligence, or does all of our due diligence have to be made in public with a QJ?
It's recommended that you look at, you make your decision based on everything that's on the record. The testimony in front of you, the code, objective code factors of the special use permit. What are those, you know, the staff report, public comment in front of you, That's what I always recommend for quasi judicial proceedings, because you're the judge and you're determining everything that's in front of you.
So if I found an article that I read that could influence my opinion and vote, I should bring it to Suzanne to include in the packet. Is that the guidance that you're giving?
And I don't usually recommend that, and I just, it's difficult position, because again, what's in the Woodland Park code, like, look at the factors as to a special use permit. So when we say we're doing outside research.
Right. That's why I asked earlier, because I feel like in quasi judicial, you're taught, and the rule is that you're the judge of the case. And typically in civil or criminal procedures, a judge does not go outside of the evidence presented before him. So the judge doesn't do their own research. It's given to him by both parties.
It's true.
And that's what you're supposed to base your opinion on. So that's why I was trying to get the clarification earlier. And that, well, then if he had put it in the packet, does that count? Because I've always been very careful not to do any research other than what's presented in front of me and what the public says. Because it puts us in a precarious position. In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong. So,
Respecting that, you still have to look at the fact that we are up here to make decisions in the best interest of the citizens of Woodland Park. And they vote for us because we have a head on our shoulders and we think. And each one of us is quite smart, actually, up here. And each one has a different level of expertise. So to not bring that to play would be being irresponsible in my office to sit up here. So,
I know. Well, so I respect that and understand that, but that's why our vote is our ultimate representation.
Right.
So when you hear the facts presented in front of you, if you disagree with them or you have a concern, then that's how you vote. You don't necessarily have to bring outside information and present it or do your own research, in essence of you already know you have a problem with the topic at hand. So anyhow.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we have direction, Nina, on what you want council to do with the upcoming packet.
I think Nina's trying to be cautious
Mm-hmm.
legally because not to say your opposition, but in looking at the factors, the opposition is sitting in front of us with their attorney. And I'm sure the attorney is paying close attention to what our attorney is telling us to do. And so Nina's in a kind of in between a rock and a hard place with what to say publicly without it being an executive session.
I would suggest that the attorney give the council direction and the staff direction.
I mean, it's a little late. You guys are already.
It doesn't have to be here today.
She keeps telling us what the
law
rule says. And you guys keep asking for clarification. So I don't know.
And then
how
the
to-
facts that were given to me is that there are this information that was looked at, so I'm trying to cure anything that has come in front of us already, which is that there was research done. So since it's mentioned that, to cure that, it should be placed in the packet. I don't think
What I needed to know.
but I don't think every council member should now do the research and put in the packet. You're the judge. It's you.
Are we allowed to ask Verizon to present any information to rebut some of what has been discussed
Yeah,
here?
they probably will. I don't think.
I mean, I read the Federal Telecommunications Act to you all, but yet you still continued the hearing, but that's, I can't force you what to do. I don't know what else to say.
Please, I didn't hear you.
I read the provisions of the Federal Telecommunications Act. Nevertheless, again, can't force you all to act. Nevertheless, we continued a public hearing based on information that I read the Telecommunications Act to you as this note. I read it a few times, so.
Can you provide that to us since we've got 2 weeks to read that to ourselves?
Okay. Sure.
No, I mean, the exact language you just read to us.
I can give you, my interpretation is do not go outside and do research and then put it in the packet, please. And the Telecommunications Act is saying that environmental factors are not to be considered. That is my interpretation.
And my
Just-
comments are that there's
heard them.
plenty of cases around the country that are contrary to what the interpretation that we're hearing. And so I'm grateful that you voted to allow that to be considered.
Mayor, can we move on, please?
I'm happy
That
to.
issue's over.
Rusty was asking for some clarification. Do you feel like you have it?
I have it now.
Okay, thank you. All right. Where are we at? 10, new business. All right, so 10A, approval of contract for the Woodland Park Hockey Rink. And our presenter is Ben Schmidt.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. This agenda item is for the approval of the contract for the hockey rink repairs. This is a bit of good news because CIRSA is going to be covering the entirety of the claim as well as a percentage of lost revenues. And we have the opportunity with this contract to get a better product than was there in place by adding in the fiberglass kickboards. And I have also asked for a small construction contingency, which is why the asked for amount is a little bit higher, but just given the nature of construction, I don't anticipate anything changing, but that's why that number is just a little bit different.
So I'm just gonna chime in, and with the 16,000, the Hockey Association had donated 7,500. And even though CIRSA was gonna pay for things, there was the extra 16,000. But after CIRSA paid, we offered to give the 7,500 back to the association. And they said, no, they didn't want it back. So in essence, their 7,500 is kind of going towards that 16,000. So I kind of look at it as it's not exactly 16,000.
That's correct.
So, okay. They do. And it was very generous of them to help us and then not to ask for it back. So council, do you have any questions or comments on this?
No, I do not.
I'm supportive of it.
I'll make a motion to
No,
approve.
no.
What?
Is there any public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Now go.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the contract for the Woodland Park Hockey Rink repairs in the amount of $330,967.96 as presented.
I'll second.
Council, you may vote. Thank you, council. Motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks again to the Hockey Association for helping us out too. It was generous of them. I know, we're lucky. We have some amazing people in our community.
I have a feeling we're going to have a pickleball association before long.
My husband wants to vote the courts. I think there is a pickleball association already.
No, I mean, local. They're following the lead
Oh, I see.
of the hockey association.
I should put that on my community events then. Okay, I just have some dates that I'd like to announce. April 8th, Teller County Summer Expo Kids Fest at the Ute Pass Cultural Center from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This event is hosted by Community Partnership, the Resource Exchange, and the Woodland Park School District. April 13th through 15th at the Woodland Park Community Church is the Munchkin Market, and that's from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. April 14th is Friday Night Creative Chill at the Ute Pass Cultural Center, and April's theme is April Shower. And register by April 12th through Parks and Rec, and you have to be 21 or over to participate. April 15th at the Ute Pass Cultural Center is the Kiwanis Krabby Tax Night. There are 2 seating times, 5:30 to 6:30, and then 7 PM to 8 PM in the evening. And it is $45 for a ticket when purchased in advance. And there's the Adult Softball League registration deadline is April 16th, and you can sign up through Parks and Rec. And that's all I have for the evening. And council, thanks a lot for the great discussion tonight on each topic. So I appreciate your professionalism this evening. Councilmember Case,
I have nothing. Thank you.
Councilmember Connors.
Just remind the veterans that the VFW meets on the first Wednesday of the month. The American Legion meets on the last Tuesday of the month, and they both meet at the VFW Hall just north of the Shining Golf Course on 67 North. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Nakai.
So I did attend the Historical Preservation Committee meeting on Tuesday. So they are moving forward with the depot building remodel to make it more resemble the original depot building and have a scope of cost from Mr. Anderson. And then they're looking on how to phase in the changes. They're also working with the Ute Pass Historical Society. The second thing they're doing is they're looking at headstone restoration at the current Woodland Park Cemetery, as well as this Templeton Cemetery near the second hole of the golf course. They've been in touch with the landowner and are working through the process of what they want to do and how to do it as far as ownership of that little piece of property, this Templeton Cemetery, which I didn't know existed until this meeting. They think there's between 20 and 50 graves. And then it's over by the golf course off the second hole. The Ute Pass Historical Society is proud to announce that Cristola Bridge is now listed on the National Registry of Historic Places in Colorado and the Colorado Historical Preservation List. And the Dude Ranches in the Shadow of Pikes Peak movie is set for April 16th at Gold Hills Theater. It's by admission only at the cost of $7 per ticket. And if you'd like to go, you do need reservations, and you can call 719-686-7512 for tickets.
It's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I saw it on Sunday.
And that's all I have.
Okay, Councilmember Neal.
2 things. I have a DDA report. The DDA did meet on April 4th at 7:30 right here. They passed 3 resolutions. Resolution 03-2023 was a TIF. We authorized a TIF for AJ Pizza. And the amount was the maximum TIF that they would receive is $173,549. So AJ's Pizza gets a TIF. Resolution 04-2023 was a revision and update of the Woodland Station Plan of Development. It passed and will be presented to the Planning Commission a week from today. And then that, with their recommendation, will be coming to City Council 2 weeks from today. We also passed Resolution 05-2023, which was the authorization to sell Woodland Station property to Tava House Properties. So the board has approved it. That authorization itself is now in the hands of the City Council. So in 2 weeks, the City Council will make a decision whether the sale of Woodland Station to Tava House will be decided. It'll come to us, City Council, and it's in that vote where we agree that it is of fair market value. And that's where it's established in one of the purchase documents. Matt McCracken did resign from the DDA effective April 4th. So there will be
It's already advertised.
advertising for that position. So that's my DDA report. The thing I wanted to bring up again now at this time, can I get a second or another council member that we could put on the agenda? I would like to see the 2-strike rule extracted from 1431 and see if we, as a council, will at least put that in place so we can get rid of the bad STRs that are violating safety and nuisance codes.
I just want to clarify, yeah, because that's part of a whole, are you talking about including all the Title V short-term rental license regulations, again, that's not outside the zoning
Correct.
code.
It's outside of the zoning. So where we establish the STR license in chapter 5 or title 5, we don't have any language in there that says how they can lose the license. And we could extract something similar to what we came up with, we call it the 2-strike rule, where they get a warning and then you're out.
Yeah, they're just part of a whole comprehensive part, the new chapter 522 that I drafted. Is that what you want to come back with? Because it doesn't really make sense just to pick a very small subsection out of it that refers to the rest of the regulation. So in other words, establishing a short-term rental license in and of itself. I understand we could strike for now some of the, the caps and the primary residence stuff, but the two strikes are about the good neighbor guidelines. They were about the other provisions within that section.
Kelly and I will look at it and we will come back with some guidance. What we're trying to have is the ability to remove STRs that we know are violating.
Right, and that's why I drafted that part, that
Correct.
that title, the chapter 522 part of it.
Right.
So I think I could have an idea as to but
What the intent is.
right, like what parts need to stay, to implement that other section that you're referring to.
And then we'll ignore all the other arguments on the different other provisions that were in 1431. It would only be giving us a mechanism that nuisance and safety violations, we have a way to get rid of them.
Okay, yeah, because not just, okay.
Instead of trying to solve it.
Yeah,
guys.
okay,
The three of us can talk about it.
Yep.
Come up with a strategy.
that's fine. That's perfect. Thank you.
Part of that too.
No.
Other.
Because that should be included, because
And 1431's not in existence anymore.
All right, Councilmember Zuluaga.
It's not. 1431 is repealed. It's not in existence.
Precedents are established when they cancel 1431.
So I know this seems like a long way away, given the fact we've had freezing temperatures and snow today. But on June the 3rd, we have citywide cleanup. So don't be discouraged, because on Resurrection Sunday, I believe it's going to be like 70 or 80 degrees up here. So we are moving into spring. We're getting ready for the cleanup. Put it on your calendar. And it'll be the 21st annual Woodland Park cleanup. Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Very good.
Oh, and just happy Easter.
Happy Easter. City Attorney. Okay, City Manager.
No jokes.
I know, I'm not that good at the jokes, sorry. My deficiency, you guys fire me, just kidding.
So our finance director has a quick sales tax update. We promised this last time. I'll let you know how we're doing. I can't.
You have a
All
new
right.
nickname, Aaron.
Oh, goodness. All right, this will be real quick. I did a little switch on us here tonight. We were supposed to have the January sales tax update, but we're actually gonna have the February one. So
much. Sorry to disappoint you.
sorry. Yes, I'm so sorry to disappoint you here. Oh, man. All right, so February year to date, we are up 5% over last year. 51,985 over through February. February for the month, we were up 3.2%. January was up 7.7%. So that's where the 51,000 comes from. For lodging tax, we're up 15.1% for the year. January was up pretty significantly. It was up 34%. February was down 8.6%. So we'll see how that goes. It continues to be from, I think, about October, where it's been kind of up and down. So but for year to date, we're at 15.1% lodging tax, 5% in sales tax. And just little graphs, but that's really the gist of it. I'm gonna leave it at home next time.
The 15% is year to date, and then what did you say the lodging, the sales tax?
5% year to date.
Okay, thank you.
So looking good so far.
Is that it? All right.
One more quick thing. So we have a stage 2 fire ban. Stage 2 fire ban. It went into effect last Friday, March 21st. We follow the county's lead on this. It was mentioned earlier. Please don't burn anything outside that isn't run on gas and is at least 10 feet away from any combustible materials. That's gonna remain in place until things get better and it's less dry. So please don't. We have more information on the city's website if you want to know more. And that's all I have.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. It is 10:31.